One visionary CEO, one universe-wide mission, half the population on the chopping block. Meet Thanos, the brilliant, brutal founder of Titan Enterprises, a disruptive firm with a radical vision to rebalance the economy of the universe by cutting the workforce in half. Permanently. Armed with 6 reality-bending assets known as the Infinity Stones, Thanos is on a ruthless acquisition spree. His mission? Execute the snap. The opposition? The Avengers, a fractured coalition of legacy companies and fading startups still clinging to their market share. Stark Industries brings tech and arrogance. Shield Solutions brings loyalty and idealism. Asgard Limited is already bankrupt. Together, they attempt to coordinate a defensive strategy, but internal politics, outdated org charts, and unchecked emotion keep tripping them up. What Thanos has in clarity, they lack in cohesion. As the Affinity assets fall one by one under Titan's control, the market nears collapse. Every acquisition strengthens Thanos' position. Every delay by the opposition inches the universe closer to a final, irreversible decision. In the end, the boardroom never comes. There is no shareholder input. There's just one decisive snap. It's a high-stakes thriller about vision without compromise, execution without emotion, and what happens when leadership isn't questioned until it's too late. Because in the business of survival, efficiency always comes at a cost.
Oh, hi, Mark. So why specifically project management and leadership?
Because that's what the book is about.
Why is the book about that?
It's a made-up tale.
The 7 sacred lessons from the School of Hard Knocks.
This one was invented by a writer.
I learned the hard way. Actually, it was a good learning experience.
It's a total fabrication. It never happened.
It's the Hard Knock University podcast, where real talk meets real lessons, and we all graduate with honors in the School of Life.
Wretched, isn't it?
Last week, we went full chaos mode, breaking down the Joker's leadership style as a destructive force of nature. This week, we're leveling up the stakes and the guest list. Chris Day and Seth Caples join me as we dissect the leadership styles of Infinity War's heavy hitters. Thanos, Tony Stark, Captain America, and Thor. Who led with vision? Who led with heart? And who needed a team of raccoons just to stay on task? Plus, we're cracking open Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday and dropping a brand new Marvel-themed knockback that snaps our usual analysis into a whole other universe. But first, my week. All right, here's what went down this week in the land of leadership, chaos, and questionable decision-making. First up, big news. The paperback edition of the Hard Knocks School of Project Management officially hits shelves June 1st. It's got a fresh new cover, the same battle-tested wisdom, and it's half the cost of the hardback. So if you've been waiting to enroll in the School of Hard Knocks without paying full tuition, now's your shot. You can grab it at leadershipknocks.com or on Amazon. Next, look, I may have accidentally tried to launch a robotics startup. So I had this idea. What if we used robot dogs to do daily job site? Built-in 360-degree camera, progress tracking, auto synced to your project management software, no more sick days, no back talk, just daily updates autonomously without having to put in all the drive time. I Googled around, saw nothing like it, and immediately went into full let's build this mode. I started pricing robot parts and sketching out software and writing app specs like I'm going to audition for Shark Tank. And then I discovered Spot, Boston Dynamics robot dog. So the problem is Spot's built for industrial and commercial inspections, nothing for new home construction. So naturally, I did what any delusional visionary would do. I pitched the idea to every product dev employee on Boston Dynamics that I could find on LinkedIn, all of them. No bites yet. Total silence. Not even a bark. But hey, dreams don't chase themselves. Finally, I've been putting the final touches on my new seminar, Built from Mistakes, Leading Projects When Nothing Goes to Plan. This is my TED Talk style session for builders, remodelers, and project managers who are tired of, theoretical fluff and ready for real leadership tools. We tackle the chaos head on, stuff like how to lead when your timeline's in flames, your subs are ghosting you, and your inner villain is trying to sabotage the project. It's funny, it's practical, it's honest, and it's booking now. So if your event needs a speaker who's equal parts battle tested and unfiltered, I'm your guy. So yeah, that was my week. Stay tuned, because coming up, we've got our book of the week, Ego is the Enemy, and a brand new knockback segment with a Marvel twist that you won't want to miss. But first, let's snap into our Thanos leadership thought experiment with today's guests, Seth Caples and Chris Day. Let's find out what happens when the stakes are cosmic, the timeline is tight, and the cost of failure is half the universe. Okay, before the snap, before the heartbreak, and before we all started arguing about which Avenger had the best beard, let's rewind to what was happening in the real world the week Avengers Infinity War dropped, April 27th, 2018. The number one song in America was Nice for What by Drake, a bouncy anthem dedicated to strong women everywhere. The number one movie, obviously, was Avengers Infinity War. It shattered records with a $257 million domestic opening weekend, becoming the biggest box office debut ever at the time. That's what happens when you cram every major hero into one movie and raise the stakes to galactic extinction. The top TV show was The Big Bang Theory. It was still holding strong on its 11th season, reminding us that even nerds with PhDs couldn't have predicted that Thanos would actually win. In major news events, the world was watching the historic meeting between the leaders of North and South Korea. Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in shook hands across the border in a rare moment of diplomacy, sparking cautious hope and a million memes about world peace arriving before the next Game of Thrones season. In major births, British royalty got a new member. Prince Louis of Cambridge was born just days before Infinity War premiered, into a world with monarchy, paparazzi, and 50% fewer Avengers. In major deaths, the world lost legendary film director Milos Forman, who directed One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Amadeus, creative giant who knew a thing or two about complicated characters, power struggles. And a fun fact, this was also the month when scientists confirmed the existence of a new organ in the human body called the interstitium, which is ironic considering we were about to watch half of our favorite heroes lose a few pretty important organs. Titan. And that's your Hard Knocks snapshot of April 2018. Now let's snap back to the MCU and break down how four very different leaders, Thanos, Stark, Cap, and Thor, handled Infinity War's impossible stakes.
All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in to the podcast. I'm joined in the studio live with Mr. Chris Day, friend of the podcast, repeat offender, and Seth Caples, my brother. Today we're doing the Infinity War Thanos breakdown. I always start out each of these by discussing, where you were in your life and what this movie meant to you when it first came out. This one was in the spring of 2018. It was the beginning of Trump's second year in office the first time around. It was before COVID. And I think everybody was super excited about this movie whenever it first came out. And I remember, I'd seen everything leading up to it. And, we went and saw it in the theaters with everybody else. I don't think we waited in line or anything crazy like some people did. But, I don't remember at the time the movie really meaning anything special to me, just so much as, being a really cool movie that I was stoked to go check out.
You're too busy to care.
Yeah. And I'm a comic book guy. I mean, I like comics and I like the comic book movies. I don't dislike Marvel movies. I had my qualms with this movie originally, and after like watching it repeatedly to prepare for this thing, I've kind of identified why I had those qualms. And honestly, looking at this movie through a leadership and project management lens, I've come to enjoy it even more.
Me too. Me too. I value it much more. It wasn't until you mentioned what content we were going to be talking about that I deep dived it myself and realized why I enjoyed it as much as I did and why it connected with me as much as it did. You know, you said, hey, would you like to talk about this, this, or this? And I said, no, that got it right there. Because I remember when I saw it for the first time. I remember exactly what I was doing. I remember the way that I watched it. And I remember some of the things hitting home real hard that I don't know if everyone else out there has had the opportunity to go through in life.
You also wanted to wipe out half the universe?
You know what? I watched it behind the glass in not solitary, we were completely locked down at Beaumont USP in federal prison. Yeah. And at that time, I was in command of about 420 men.
What's it like watching a movie in prison?
You know what? For the most part, if you're not on some sort of restricted anything like we had been, people were getting killed every time they opened the door. So they kept us locked down 24 hours a day for almost a year and a half. And yeah, so you're living in a bathroom with one other dude and you're watching through a window that's a 4x6 window. Like literally it's like a 4x6 window piece of glass. And the TV is all the way on the other side, mounted up on a pylon.
Jeez.
Yeah. And it's only a 19-inch screen and you're listening to it on the radio, like, dialed into a certain station to watch it. So you got you and your buddy, you're sitting here, the other dude standing on a chair looking over you. So you can both see outside this one thing. Yeah, so it kind of sucks. But if you're not under restricted movement, it's really not all that bad. You've got your day room that's got multiple TVs in there and everybody, all the little cliques, all the different groups, gangs and affiliations all have their own little tables and their own little, spots to live and be, and you're watching your designated TV and it's really not so bad at all, especially if you're, on the upper echelon of your organization.
Man, that's like a 2.5 hour movie. That's hard to do.
Oh, if that's the only entertainment you got,
Not hard. Not all that hard.
Yeah, they only have one movie night a week.
It's this or read the same Louis L'Amour book again.
Lockdown like that, it's a book part coming out every now and then. It's gonna be like once a month because it ain't no week like it in no county jail.
Yeah.
Oh no, even that. You're sliding portions of a book underneath the door so that you can slide it under that little, half-inch gap. And you got about 15 pages at a time. You're trying to fish from another unit. Yeah.
I just 2 minutes ago-ish noticed Venom on your shirt.
Oh, yeah. Look, this is Venom Monstera, baby. That's it. Look, I'm all about playing. For real. You know what I mean? If
Love
I
it.
saw Venom and playing.
Yeah.
Had to buy this shirt. Had to do it.
Yeah, hell yeah. Seth, what did this movie mean to you in 2018 when it came out?
It's all the Marvel Universe movies are great for me because, like we were talking about earlier, we grew up on comics and that was like one of my escapes, right, in our childhood. And to have the Marvel Cinematic Universe pop up when we become adults is just, it's literally the best time to live right now, best age rather, or however you want to look at it. So yeah, they're all important to me.
Yeah. And, this really pissed off a lot of people the way it ended. Kind of like, here's a cliffhanger. How are they going to get out of this? They're going to get out of this, but you don't know how. But being comic book guys, like, that's just how comic books end.
Next issue, next installment. What's it going to be?
Yeah.
Now, the only thing that I found, because I was a comic book nerd too, and they did not mention like Lady Death or any of that kind of stuff, which is what his main motivation in the comics.
Yeah, and they alluded to that they were going to do that in the end of one of the other movies, that cutaway scene during the post-credit scene after the credits.
Okay.
One of the guys goes, "Oh, you don't want to mess with the guys on Earth. Fighting them would be like courting death." And Thanos kind of turns like a little grin, like, "Courting death's what I do." You know what I mean? Yeah. So I thought that's the direction they were going, and when they didn't, it kind of annoyed me, and it annoyed a lot of people. A lot of people weren't happy with it. And I mean, for good reason. It's like, fuck, man, if you can, the stakes aren't there. If you can snap your fingers and get rid of half the people, you can snap your fingers and double the resources.
Well, and that's what brings in some of the nuances of the leadership and project management when it comes to Thanos.
Yeah.
You know,
And after tons and tons of rewatching this movie this week to get ready for this, I think that had they just taken a slightly different approach in that to start the movie out, instead of starting on the spaceship with the, post Ragnarok, picking up where Ragnarok left off, if they had started on Titan, remember in Superman starts out and it's like, the Krypton is fixing to blow. Everything's gone to shit,
Right.
and they're all making, harsh decisions. They should have started on Titan many years ago with the whole, I can fix all this. We just have to randomly get rid of half of our people. And they're like, no, you're crazy, and if you had started with that, then you would have felt for Thanos throughout the movie, because the idea was that this movie wasn't so much an Avengers movie as much as it was a Thanos movie. And he's the hero in his own story.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that part was really kind of left out. You really, unless you knew the story, you didn't understand why he was doing what he was doing at all.
Right. We were just rooting for him because it was Josh Brolin. But I think the Russo brothers kind of missed the mark there, in that if they had set that up where we just like automatically were like, Thanos is right, then we would have bought him. We wouldn't have been so upset with the way that it went down,
Yeah.
But
Then he wouldn't have been the enemy. He wouldn't have been the villain. The story needs is the villain.
Also, if you have that opening, does that take away from the scene where he sacrifices Gamora?
Sure.
They don't want to take away from that scene. That's one of the biggest moments in the whole movie. It happens halfway through the fucking movie. Yeah, it's called the climax.
All right, well, we'll get to that. So the synopsis of the movie, the summary anyway, off of IMDb. The Mad Titan Thanos, Josh Brolin, begins his hunt for the most powerful objects in the universe, the Infinity Stones, in this movie. With the Space Stone given by Loki, Tom Hiddleston, and the Power Stone, Thanos sends Ebony Maw, Cold Obsidian, to retrieve the Time Stone. This is very poor grammar. That's the problem with these websites where anybody can go in there and post.
I mean, if you have
He sends Ebony Maw, Cold Obsidian, to retrieve the Time Stone from Doctor Strange. Since Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive to retrieve the Mind Stone from Vision. Meanwhile, Tony Stark meets up with Bruce Banner, and Sorcerers, Doctor Strange, and Wong, with help from Peter Parker. And Stark and Strange join forces together and agree to stop Thanos. In space, Thor also joins forces with Guardians of the Galaxy, Star-Lord, Drax, Rocket, Groot, Mantis, and Gamora, the daughter of Thanos, who warns Thor of his power. Thor travels away to defeat Thanos with Rocket and Groot, while the other Guardians join forces with Stark, Strange, and Parker. In Wakanda, Steve Rogers and his team, Black Widow, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, War Machine, and Bruce Banner, to protect Vision and the Mind Stone in his forehead, with protection given from King T'Challa and his Wakandan army. Thanos will come for everyone to destroy half the universe. It's a lot, man.
So his goal is to collect all the stones. 7?
That's what's cool about this movie for young kids. We were introduced to these characters via the comic books, but like our children were introduced to these movies via the MCU. And, when you're playing on the playground, you play the comic book or you play the movie. And this plot is super easy for kids because it's, if the fat purple kid collects 6 rocks, then he wins. Don't let him collect 6 rocks.
Collect 6 rocks.
That's an easy one to play on the playground.
Hold their own little special rock. A little get yours. It's like capture the flag, Green.
We have shiny rocks.
This rock changes reality.
So I've broken my approach into basically 4 teams. You have Team Thanos, Team Iron Man, Team Captain America, and Team Thor. So for Thanos, obviously he's the leader of his team. His team is the Black Ward. So Ebony Maw, Cold Obsidian, Proxima Midnight, and Corvus Glaive. The Outriders and indirectly Gamora and Nebula, albeit under duress. And their goal is to collect all 6 Infinity Stones to balance the universe by wiping out half of all life.
Balance.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's jump into the plot.
I call it genocide.
I'm still trying to fall into like the groove of how to approach these episodes. For this one, I think I'm just going to read the synopsis from IMDb and we'll talk about it paragraph by paragraph. So starting at the top, having acquired the Power Stone from the planet Xandar, so this happened off screen. He's already got 1 stone to start. Thanos and his lieutenants, Ebony Maw, Cold Obsidian, Proxima Midnight, and Corvus Glaive, intercept the spaceship carrying the survivors of Asgard's destruction. Thanos destroys the ship and kills all surviving Asgardians.
Yeah, that's when he kicks Hulk's ass, right?
Yeah.
It's good, great fun.
As he extracts the space stone from the Tesseract, Thanos subdues Thor, overpowers Hulk, and kills Loki.
Yeah.
With the
Which
power-
is heavy.
I mean, we've seen Loki die on screen like 4 times before this.
Yeah, we have. Back. Yeah, no,
And I've always, and I still do have a problem with that scene. We've seen Loki fool dozens of people by making an illusion of himself. This dude tries to get Thanos by hiding a knife behind his back. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I still wonder if that's not just one big MacGuffin that they played the long game on, and Loki wasn't dead after all.
very well possible. Very well. We'll find out.
No. You did find out he wasn't. Well, he kind of was.
Well, no, because the whole Loki series, they steal a time variant from the first Avengers movie.
Right.
Yeah. So he doesn't, that Loki that we know from the TVA and all that, he never experienced the Infinity War.
Right. It's all very confusing. You know what it is whenever you're constructing a universe this big, you're going to have some oopsies.
Well, I mean, at this point in time that this is coming out, we know a little bit about the next Avengers movie, and we do know that Tom Hiddleston is in it.
There you go. I didn't know that, but if I had a tail, it'd be wagging real fast.
All right. And so, old dude, Hyman throws Hulk down to Earth with the Rainbow Road. The Rainbow Road. he uses the Bifrost, and sends Hulk to Earth. Didn't he, like, when he originally sent Thor to Earth, like, land him in the desert in Arizona or some shit? And with Thor, Hulk, he sends him straight to the sanctum.
Yeah, right to the center where yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I guess he's learned a little bit better.
When your adrenaline's pumping, his accuracy is a little bit
He
better.
knows the geography of Earth and who the players are at this point. Thanos departs with his lieutenants and obliterates the spaceship. He instructs Maw and his lackeys to retrieve the 2 Infinity Stones from Earth, the Time Stone with Doctor Strange and the Mind Stone with Vision, and meet him on Titan. Thanos' lieutenants duly arrive on Earth in their massive spaceship. Hulk crash lands at the Sanctum Sanctorum in New York, reverting to Bruce Banner. He warns Stephen Strange and Wong about Thanos' plan to kill half of all life on the Earth, and in response, Strange recruits Tony Stark. Thanos used to attack each planet one by one, killing half the population, but found that the process was too slow and the problem too big. He knew that the Infinity Stones would give him the power to reshape the universe and save life from itself. Though the attack on New York was led by Loki, it was ordered by Thanos. So basically, Thanos' original plan wasn't working, so he pivots to this new plan where he's just going to go do it himself.
Which, you know what, he doesn't pivot often. He found one way of fixing his issue, which you got to remember, the whole thing started because he witnessed his own planet Titan be destroyed because of lack of resources.
Nobody would listen to him.
Population. So his only approach at all is mass genocide.
Yeah.
That's it. He never deviates from that. He never does. That's the only thing he ever figured out.
Yeah, the way to get to the goal was pivoted.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for my notes here, I have that he has an autocratic leadership style, but he's visionary and he's ruthlessly pragmatic.
Definitely.
But except he's like not playing the long game like Dr. Evil was when we did him. He's kind of short-term visionary.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, the sooner the better for Thanos. But he sets a very clear objective. You know, it so much so that even his adversaries have no question as to what his goal is. You know what I mean?
And what's interesting is he's not conflicted about it at all. He's convicted, but still feels sort of bad about it.
You know, I don't know if he felt bad afterwards.
No. I think it's pretty clear he felt bad about it, right?
Well, I know that he did from the moment when you start seeing him talk to Gamora, where he goes to the flashback and talks to Gamora, the young child.
Yeah.
I think that's where he realized it cost everything.
Yeah.
Before that, it wasn't a real personal loss. You know, it was just, you're doing what needs to be done.
I mean, in that final scene after the snap, you know, you see him just kind of sitting there and it weighs on him. You can see it, you know, and Josh Brolin's a good actor even through all the purple. You know what I mean?
Well, I think
through all the steegy eyes.
Someone who's never been in a situation to where they had to make, you know,
the hard choice.
Yeah, the very hard choice.
I wonder,
Dan, how that affects you later.
Are there people who are like Team Thanos? Like he should have wiped out 50% of the universe.
I mean, that's like the going joke is I got caught in traffic today and now I agree with Thanos.
I understand.
Well, I have certainly felt that way many times.
Well, you got to give it to it though, just to have the.
I've felt that way twice since I've been here.
To have the intellectual prowess to know that to harness all of the stones, you know, in combination is the way to go. It's not use them individually. He's the one that commissioned the forging of the gauntlet, right? So, like, he had the intellect to understand, hey, if I'm able to control them all, which could never be done, that was to kill any human, right?
Yeah.
Or, well, any, I guess, entity, but to harness it and be able to focus it through a device. He's the one that came up with that. He just had to commission its making.
Yeah. So he delegates out to his lackeys right off the bat, and sends the guys to Earth. You know, he's going to delegate that out, and he's going to go, you know, take on a different part of the plan himself. And you know, he'll intervene when he needs to, but he's good at delegation. You know. All right. So the Big Bang created 6 elemental crystals, each of which controlled an essential aspect of existence, which are time, space, reality, mind, power, and soul. He already has the power and space stones. Wong tells everyone that with the 6 Infinity Stones in his possession, Thanos can control the universe itself by simply snapping his fingers. Vision has the Mind Stone, but he has turned off his tracker. Only Rogers can find Vision, and he and Tony haven't spoken since the Avengers disbanded. Hulk tells Tony to bury his differences with Captain America since Thanos is coming to Earth, no matter whether they're talking terms or not. And for real, dude, like, first of all, why does Tony Stark, the tech guru, have a flip phone? Like, I understand if Captain America had a flip phone.
I'll tell you why. Because he's very similar to you in that he's always got that, you know, humorous side to him.
I guess. He's just trying to be, he's a hipster.
It's like ironic, right? It's like, I've got this flip phone, but Tony Stark's flip phone can do anything you want.
Also, the outfit that he's wearing in that opening scene, the park with Pepper Potts, there's no better, like, tech bro outfit. You know, like if you saw a tech bro in Central Park, that's what he'd be wearing, you know, and nailed that one.
You know, I remember when you got your first iPhone.
I was so proud.
Yeah, oh, I know.
I wish I still had it.
The Razor, the Motorola Razor, and you both come up. You got the special deal.
Yeah.
You both got them. You were showing me how cool they were.
No,
you know, I have never ever had one. Ever. I've been Team Android my whole damn life, man.
Wow.
I just cannot make myself go Apple. Can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't use any other Apple products at all. But I mean, I've been using the iPhone since the very first one.
Yeah.
And I'll be damned if I change now. You know what I mean?
You're invested.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I have to learn a whole different operating system. But yeah, man, that's our first big problem with Tony. He's not gonna, eat his pride and call Cap on the phone,
The contentious relationship.
Yeah, I mean, this pretty much is not an Avengers movie so much as it's a Thanos. This is post-Civil War. Right. The Avengers are split up, and they never get back together throughout this movie.
That's one of the layers of the onion that make it so wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Because Mon Obsidian arrived to retrieve the Time Stone from Strange, drawing the attention of Peter Parker. Bruce is unable to convert into Hulk, who is traumatized by the fight he lost to Thanos. Ma captures Strange, but fails to take the Time Stone due to an enchantment Strange has placed on the amulet the stone is housed in. Stark and Parker pursue Ma's spaceship. Banner contacts Steve Rogers, and Wong stays behind to guard the same. I like Wong.
Wong needs a series.
Utilized.
He needs his own series.
He does. He's a great, beat character for sure.
Yeah. I like when they're like, we actually like the Hulk flavored Ben and Jerry's. And Bruce Banner's like, oh, they have that at the bank? Hold on, I'm not making any money off of this licensing deal. Okay. On the spaceship, Parker and Stark. Well, hold on, back up. So, in the park, or on the streets of New York, when they first attack, we get our first look at what's basically going to be Tony Stark's leadership style throughout the whole thing. Collaborative, sure, but very impulsive. Focusing on, trying to use technology and innovation the most he can. Tony is certainly a good problem solver and good at leveraging technology with his suit upgrades and all that kind of stuff. But he struggles with team cohesion and long-term planning. Sure. I mean, the only time that we've ever seen Tony in such a reactive mode is in Iron Man 1 when, he gets at the very beginning when he gets kidnapped,
Right.
and he's just straight up in reactive mode there. You know what I mean? And since then, Tony has tried to be proactive with the whole Ultron thing. That backfired. And then the Civil War happens, and he just has failed at being proactive in every chance that he's tried. He's certainly not without trying. And he wants so badly to be proactive, but he gets stuck in this reactive feedback loop where he's just reacting to the things that are happening to him.
Yeah, I mean, he learns well from all of the craziness that happens to him. But what's interesting is, like, if you can Google Tony Stark, it says that he's a futurist.
Sure. I mean, big on technology. So this is the first key moment for Tony when they first show up in the city to try to get the Time Stone. He goes into crisis response mode, and he reacts swiftly and, starts. I mean, there's no plan at this point. He's just kind of reacting. But he's very quick. Friday, call up suit number 43. And he knows fucking Peter Parker's Tony Parker. He knows that Peter Parker's going to run out of air, and he sets him up with a suit, He's a smart kid and good at integrating technology and thinking fast on his feet. But I think you would find people who argue that he doesn't plan long term. I think that's the whole Ultron thing was a long-term plan. An umbrella around the earth. He knew that this crisis was coming. He knew that at some point something like this is going to happen. Sure. You know what I mean? And he wanted to protect the earth. He was a key player in setting up the Avengers, because that's one thing. Well, we don't need the Avengers if we have Ultron. Ultron didn't work out. All these plans that he tries to put together to be proactive fall apart.
I think that's just life circumstance, though.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, I think
As the French say, such is life.
that's it. Then c'est la vie, right?
It's not necessarily that he's to blame for these plans falling apart, I
I don't think Tony Stark had really done anything wrong in any of these big grand plans that he tries to put together to be a defense against the eventual Thanos threat. But there's just the circumstances that, they didn't work out. And now here we are in a spaceship flying towards Titan. Yeah. And I've said this a million times, it feels like, on your podcast, but I believe it's your lesson 7, the greatest plans fall apart. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the title of my autobiography one day.
All of us.
It feels like everything just falls apart. It's Murphy's Law, right? Murphy's Law.
If it can screw up, it will.
On the spaceship, Parker and Stark defeat Maw by blasting a part of the ship's hull and sucking Maw into open space. The whole, we got to come up with a plan, and it's Peter Parker that comes up with the plan, and he's like, you ever seen this really old movie, Alien? I love Peter Parker, man. I love Spider-Man. He's one of the smartest of them all, and he's also actually one of the strongest of them all. Sure. Pay attention. And the funniest.
Yes. You know what? Okay.
We're using our fake names. I'm Spider-Man.
The amazing Spider-Man. He was the wittiest, the funniest, but it's like he always had that little quip that he would say. The other ones he did too, but that one, he was just more zany than any of them.
Have you all seen the new cartoon series on Disney Plus?
No.
It's amazing. You got to see it.
Okay.
It's amazing. I grew up on those cartoons in the 90s, and they call back to those. They are like a copy of those.
No, but
it's just wonderful. I haven't really been time to be our age, I'm sure. I have not been able to get into the animated stuff that they're doing in the current Marvel universe. But man, I got a lot going on. I ain't gonna tell you what cartoons certainly do. Okay, Doctor Strange is worried about the Time Stone falling into Thanos' hands and wants to return to Earth. Now remember, at this point in time, Doctor Strange straight up says, if it comes down to you dying or the kid dying or protecting the stone, y'all are both dead.
That's it.
And then we see how that changes soon. Stark disagrees, believing that the best way to defeat Thanos is by engaging him away from Earth. The spaceship is on autopilot. Stark reckons that it will take them where Thanos is or is going to be. They agree to pursue Thanos, but Strange warns Stark that he would sacrifice him and Parker both if that would protect the stone. Yeah, and he wants to get away from Earth, right, because he learned that from the Battle of New York. Correct. And Sokovia, Sokovia, yeah.
Yeah, well, you never want a war at home. You always want to fight a war over their territory. So it's not destroying your people, your supplies, your resources.
You don't want the casualties. The casualties is what weighed Tony down.
Certainly. And I think that goes with any good one.
Which calls back to how in Tony's first movie, Iron Man's first movie, he was weighed down by all his weaponry.
Sure.
Killing people.
Right. That's right. Speaking of the comic series, I remember, and I don't remember if it was Amazing or Spectacular or which Spider-Man it was, but because he would let her know that he was Spider-Man because he was afraid that would put her into danger. I don't remember if it was Glenn or if it was
it's a big conflict with Spider-Man.
Yeah. But it wasn't at all of them. One of them she knew, the other one he didn't. I don't remember which one it was. But the point is, a lot of them don't want them to know. Well, Superman did it with Lois Lane. I think sometimes they need to protect them. You're the only one who knows the truth, and you have to make those hard decisions with me that you don't get to have the relationships. You don't get to fall in love. You don't get to get married and have 2.5 kids. You don't get to have the white picket fence.
No, Peter Parker was just trying to pay the rent.
Yeah. But, even for Thanos, it's the same thing. He understands what's happening, and look what he has to give up. He has to sacrifice the only person that he actually ever did love and loved him back.
Yeah.
In order to do in what in his mind was the greater good. You've got the greater good or the common good. Mm-hmm. And he chose greater good, which means to me that he wasn't necessarily a villain. He just made a choice that maybe not all of us would have made, ethically and morally, mass genocide. But he did it for a reason that he believed was the greater good. On that, he had the singular vision. He was very clear on his goal setting. Look, he had the whole Black Guard too. What other world leader do we know that has ever commanded not only a military unit, but multiple units that would die or kill out of complete loyalty?
That's what I was going to say. What are they called? The Black Guard? What are they called?
The Black Guard.
They seemed in the movie to be loyal to the cause.
The Black Order.
They believed the Black Order. Thank you. I knew it was wrong. The Black Order.
Thanks.
Well, I mean, I just
remember
remember this from all the
Black Order.
yeah. But anyway, we lost them. You did.
Yeah, they were loyal to the cause. I mean, for everything. That's what
Right.
you are able to convey, the mission.
They were loyal to Thanos, and it seemed like they believed the goal and believed.
Yeah, they had money.
They were Team Thanos. We need to wipe out half in universe.
Yeah, they certainly had buy-in on Thanos' vision. And Thanos is a better leader than all of the other villains that we've done so far on the podcast, in that he tolerates failure to an extent. So Dr. Evil, the very first time we meet Dr. Evil, he's just offing people because they failed, right? He tolerates Loki's failure until Loki just straight up betrays him and tries to kill him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When he finally gets to Titan, he looks around and Ebony Maw's gone. First thing he says is, I guess the Maw's dead. And they're like, oh yeah. And he's like, well, that's him. You know what I mean? Like, he mourns.
I'm telling you,
Ebony Maw's death.
They tried to utilize the hell out of him in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a
go
whole
back
thing.
to your opening you wish happened.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, you know what? That's the Marvel cinematic universe into a modern time. When we were kids reading these comic books, they were very black and white. It was clear cut. The hero is the hero. They always did the right thing. The bad guy was the bad guy. They always did the evil thing, and it didn't matter why.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing that people are people, and we are multifaceted beings. Just because you're labeled as the villain doesn't necessarily mean that you're evil. It just means that you chose a different alignment than the hero, right? Like,
And anti-hero movies are really big right now.
certainly.
Punisher, Venom.
You know what I didn't like about Deadpool? And maybe this is old school, man. He cusses too much.
You're not going to like my podcast, my style. Yeah.
You know what? I was listening to the radio the other day, and in a radio commercial, they throw the F word in bleeped. Okay. Now, look, I have no problem cussing at all, ever, when it's necessary in certain company. But I think just because you think it makes you sound cool, I think it devalues you quite a bit. And to me, that's what I did not like about Deadpool. I think he could have been funny. He could have been a lot more interesting if it wasn't just, nothing but that.
In this movie, I think they say asshole like twice.
Well, I mean, like I said, I got nothing against any kind of vulgarity. It just happens to be that I felt like it was overdone, overused, and in situations where it wasn't necessary. And it sure isn't something that I want to sit around and watch with my children and make them feel that that's okay to just have that as a normal part of their vocabulary in every sentence.
I mean, there's the scene on Titan where Doctor Strange opens a little portal behind Star-Lord, and he kind of gives him the bird and falls backwards.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and this movie is full of little funny stuff like that. They did a great job of balancing humor with the seriousness of it. Moving on, in Scotland, Midnight and Glaive ambush Wanda Maximoff and Vision in order to retrieve the Mind Stone from Vision. Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, and Sam Wilson rescue them and take shelter with James Rhodes and Banner at the Avengers compound. Vision offers to sacrifice himself by having Maximoff destroy the Mind Stone to keep Thanos from retrieving it. Rogers suggests they travel to Wakanda, which he believes has the resources to remove the stone without destroying Vision. So we got Steve Rogers in the game now. His team, team 3 of our 4-team operation here. Their goal is to protect Vision, Mind Stone, and repel Thanos' forces when they eventually get to Earth. Well, of course, they already are on Earth, but Thanos is coming. And they've got a plan. His leadership style is democratic and inspirational. Steve emphasizes teamwork, trust, and moral clarity, excelling at rallying diverse groups. For example, the whole Wakanda alliance. Big on team morale. People are inspired by Cap,
It's because he's so good looking.
He is a good looking man. I didn't
He's got
much
the
care for
Riz,
beard.
as my son says.
He's charisma. I did think it was funny when Hulk's like, "Oh, you're copying me with the beard." I mean, not Hulk. Thor. There's too many characters in this fucking movie. A lot of them, but there's. Come on, we love that. I mean,
a lot of people were pissed off the Deadpool wasn't it. Well, he couldn't have been at the time. I think at this time, yes, he absolutely could have. I don't think so. I think the first Deadpool movie was 2016. Well, I mean, because of the rights issue with Fox or Disney, that is 100% the problem was. Yeah. They had acquired Fox. Correct. Now they could do stuff like that. And they will, I believe. And no, Secret Wars. No, if Captain America's team has any weaknesses, it's his over optimism. Believing that they can save Vision. They should have just fucking killed Vision right off the bat. They can't do that. They love Vision and they love Wanda, and they like the relationship that those two had wasn't unknown and unnoticed to the rest of the Avengers. And sure, I get that, but Shield and all that. But I mean, if anything, they're guilty of being reactive also. The team's fractured. There's no proactiveness to the Avengers whatsoever at this point. And both these teams, all three of the teams except for Thanos. Thanos is the only team that's proactive. The other three teams, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, they're all reactive throughout the whole thing. And you see how that plays out. The Guardians of the Galaxy respond to a distress call from the Asgardian ship and rescue Thor, who was floating frozen in deep space. Thor learns that Gamora is Thanos' daughter, and that she is linked romantically to Quill. Thor surmises Thanos seeks the Reality Stone, which is in the possession of the Collector on Nowhere. Gamora wants to go to Nowhere to stop Thanos, but Thor wants to go to Nidavellir to obtain a new weapon after his sister Hela destroys him. Undecided, they split into two teams. Gamora remembers how Thanos attacked the planet and killed off the population. He adopted Gamora after he found her standing up to him. Thanos gives her a perfectly balanced knife. Gamora makes Quill promise if Thanos captures her, that he will kill her. And we get the hilarious scene where Dave Bautista, like, how long have you been there, an hour? I've been practicing standing still.
Love that.
So
Fancy.
Like, you're eating a pistachio. Or TV. Some kind of nut. You're eating a space nut. Also, like, whenever you first, at each scene where they flip to somewhere else, they show at the bottom where you're at, or, wherever. Whenever you get to the Guardians of the Galaxy, the 70s music, rubber band, music comes on, and, we're all bopping. We're like, all right, we got some Guardians. And there's space. That itself is a great joke. There's space. And some really good jokes in this movie. On Nowhere, Rocket and Groot accompany Thor to Nidavellir. Discovering that Thanos had already been there, he forced the dwarves there to forge his gauntlet and then killed everybody, and also smelted the hands of the chief dwarf, Eitri, while sparing his life. They locked up his hands and weird shit. I guess some kind of molten metal of sorts. Thor, Rocket, and Eitri create a battle axe, Stormbreaker, capable of killing Thanos. Thor kickstarts the star to power the furnace process and nearly kills him, and Groot provides the handle for the new weapons. Sure did make his also control the power of the Bifrost. Yeah. It's a play on that scene from Captain America with the helicopter. You have to have a scene like that to show up the Bifrost.
They didn't connect those dots. They the gauntlet, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was the whole point, is Thanos had been there, forced them to make the gauntlet for him, and then killed everybody but Eitri.
Right.
Yeah. Eitri was pissed because they had a deal with Thor's planet. Thor's people were supposed to protect.
Titan?
No,
Asgard.
Asgard. The Asgardians were supposed to protect them, and they did not. So, going to my notes, let's talk about Thor and his team. So obviously Thor's the leader, Rocket, Groot, and later he kind of, joins forces with the with the Wakandans. The goal here is to forge a weapon to kill Thanos and avenge Asgard. Leadership style is charismatic and determined, with a solo focus that shifts to team support late game. Thor's strength is his resilience, but he lacks structured planning. So he kind of counts on himself. He's the coyote in all this, in that
You know, my whole thing is I love coyotes because the whole idea of a lone wolf is a myth. Wolves don't do good alone. They're pack animals. A coyote, on the other hand, can go both ways. They can thrive in packs and they thrive on their own. And Thor's got that same kind of thing, you know. I've always kind of identified with, you know what I mean? But he gets tunnel vision in this, you know, and he's all about revenge over strategy. And that, you know, leads to poor communication with the rest of the teams, you know?
Better leave that. I like to leave it. He got the bread.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing is like Thor has like gone through some shit, right? Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll definitely have to circle back and do the end game.
Sure.
At this point in the game, Thor is in resource gathering. You know, he's trying to get the Stormbreaker, you know. Thanos is in resource gathering. The stones. Thor is in resource gathering with the weapon. And Captain America's kind of in a strategic alliance mode. They're going to go team up with the Wakandans. Iron Man, crisis response, and eventually kind of team expansion.
I'm getting vibes that you don't like Tony Stark. How dare you, sir?
Maybe it's the whole tech bro thing.
I don't know, man. Let me tell you what, Iron Man 2, when he just opened there, like, and there was the whole, all of his control center. I walked so damn.
And it was very Minority Report.
Minority Report was cool.
He even said that disdain or something. I don't even know if I'm using that word correctly, but good Lord, it's man, you don't like this guy.
Yeah, you know, like,
Maybe a little.
I love Tony. I love Iron Man.
I love Thanos. I thought he was great. You know, he mirrors some of his history, our histories. I'm not going to say greatest in a good way, but greatest in a big band, bold, authoritarian manner, leadership quality.
Well, relatable in that way?
I mean, he is. Look, what other world leader have you ever seen convince an entire nation of people that it's okay to commit mass genocide and take over half of the fucking world? Look,
Yeah.
think about this. They weren't forced. None of those people were forced to go and murder other human beings. None of them were put into.
They believed in the cause,
They
right? And
believed
we
in
talked
it
about
so much that they were willing to dissect them.
Yeah.
They were willing to go out there and perform operations and do crazy shit to people that you would never imagine human beings doing to others because they believed in the greater good. Now, just like Thanos, that particular leader used a whole lot of propaganda and things to make sure that they believed in this righteous mission that they had. It was a very extreme manner, but what other charismatic person could you ever imagine in the world convincing half the world that it's okay to do that?
Well, I mean, Hollywood gets a lot of flack for being super liberal and trying to hand around their politics up into their movies. And that argument can be made here. This was 2 years into Trump's first term. The Democratic Party is fractured. They're kind of in shambles. And really, in order to win in 2 more years, they've got to pull it together, unite, and come up with a candidate that can truly beat Trump. Now, the one they came up with is questionable. You could easily make the argument, you know, liberal Hollywood put this movie together with the idea that Trump is Thanos and the Avengers are the Democrats.
I can kind of see some
I
correlation.
don't think so. I could see where probably tons of people think that, and I could see where you could make those connections, connect those dots. Yeah. I don't think so at all.
Well, I don't either. I mean, I can see the dot. I mean, see if you wanted to try to make that a story.
I think the writers and the people who made the movie love the universe just as much as we do, probably more.
Yeah.
I believe in coincidences, but I do think, I know that there are people out there making this exact argument.
Sure. 100%. Sure. 100%. And the chance that what you just said is happening is not zero.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Well, I think it goes back just like old George Lucas, man. I don't sit here and think that, he had some big philosophical, theological, discussion in his own mind before he wrote Star Wars. Yeah, he just wrote a badass science world, into existence, and it happened to mirror. Yeah, and it happened to mirror, reality a little bit.
Yeah. On Nowhere, Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, and Mantis find Thanos with the Reality Stone already in his possession. Thanos uses the stone to twist reality, tricks Gamora into thinking that she attacked and killed him. Back in reality, Thanos kidnaps Gamora, his adopted daughter. Will is unable to kill Gamora as he hesitates, and by then Thanos changes reality again and uses the Space Stone to take Gamora to his ship. Thanos argues that ever since he eliminated half the population of Gamora's planet, the children are well nourished and enjoy a healthier world. The universe has finite resources and life. Left unchecked, will consume itself. Thanos insists that he's the only one who understands this and will do what is needed to save the universe. So, this is where we first get this same old trick that they keep doing in this movie that kind of annoys me. Where, we killed him. No, we didn't. And then, Quill's gonna kill her. It's not. And it happens over and over until the end when people actually start dying. Well, the first actual death is Gamora. Before then, we just have these, psych, not really kind of deaths, and then we get some more of those later on. So Thanos reveals that Nebula was captured when she snuck aboard Thanos' ship to capture him. She's been held in the chamber where Thanos uses the power and space stones to torture her. Gamora tearfully reveals the location of the Soul Stone. Thanos and Gamora travel to Vormir, where Red Skull, keeper of the Soul Stone, informs him the stone can only be retrieved by sacrificing someone he loves. Thanos reluctantly throws Gamora off the cliff, killing her and earning the stone. Crazy moment of the movie, and you just read it so matter-of-factly.
And that is tough, though. How do you make a decision to do that to your daughter?
Adopted daughter. Yeah, but he loved her, right? Now, merely or he wouldn't have gotten the stone.
True. I think
that's how committed to the goal Homeboy is. I mean, at the end of the day, he knew that, everybody's going to be kind of random. Of course, he did agree to keep Tony Stark alive. So I don't know how random it actually is. It does seem like the ratio of Avengers that die is more than 50%.
Well, if more of them had stayed alive, then they would have been able to save more people, and they couldn't have had the half population.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
But now that he's got the Reality Stone, he's really got the upper hand. It's weird that he uses it so well in this scene, like forgets that he has it when he gets back to Titan. We'll get there. And then that's the one part of his leadership style where I was like, he's a good leader for the most part. Certainly not with Nebula. He's always been kind of a piece of shit.
Nebula, yeah. I kind of thought so too. That was his real daughter, right? That's the one that he basically turned into a cyborg.
She straight up is a cyborg. She's a machine.
Yeah, but she wasn't. She didn't start off that way. But that was her whole thing. Is she was upset because he loved Gamora for the way she was. And she herself could never be good enough to please her father. So she would willingly go undergo all of the operations and having this part replaced.
Willingly?
No. Well, she said that she went down this time so she could be faster. She'd do this so that she could see better. She would do this so that all of the things she did to please her father, to become better, to become great, so that he would.
I thought that he was like straight cutting off her limbs and replacing them with better limbs because she would fail. Because he would fight. He would make Nebula.
Yeah, we need to figure this out.
We need a young Jamie to Google this shit.
Where's Jamie? Where's Steve?
The way I understood it is he would make those two fight against each other. Gamora was better. She would always win. So these were like upgrades that he was giving Nebula. Of course, I'm sure
and it was extremely painful for her, right?
That does sound right, actually. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just, read more into her.
Well, there's so much going on with this universe. It's a lot to keep up with. Of course, and the comics and the movies are different, so maybe that's why I'm having the comics and the movies,
Yeah, I don't know. But I know that she definitely felt some remorse about it. She felt a certain way about Gamora because
she definitely was in competition with Gamora, whereas Gamora was like, didn't even realize it was happening because she was winning everything.
With her.
Yeah. Thanos arrives and speaks to Strange, justifying his plans as necessary. Oh, I skipped a part. Nebula escapes captivity and asks the remaining Guardians to meet her on Thanos' desolate homeworld. Titan, Stark, Parker, and Strange land on Titan, where they're attacked by Quill, Drax, and Mantis, who give up the fight when they realize who the Avengers are. Hilarious scene. Dude's like, something about Jesus, and he's like, "You're from Earth." He said, "No, I'm not, I'm from Missouri." The group forms a plan to seize the Infinity Gauntlet from Thanos after Strange uses the time stone to view millions of possible futures, seeing only the one in which Thanos loses. Man, that's and so does Tony, the guy you hate so much. I mean, to an extent, if he saw the one where Thanos loses, he saw Tony do this. That's why he's like, big reversal from, if it comes to the stone or you two, I will let both you die. And he's finally, after seeing all of these different futures, he readily gives up the stone under one circumstance, that he keeps Tony alive. Yeah. So, team. You have another one. Yeah, Team Iron Man. I'm not writing anything down anyway.
No, but I love that you have to have a
Yeah,
it's
to
your
do this.
You're like the accountant. You can have a thing, like mental disorder or whatever.
So at this point, Stark's team is in team expansion mode. You know, he's kind of organically growing his group with the Guardians, you know, which is a super good win for his team. But kind of struggles to align all of their dynamics and come up with a cohesive plan. The plan is to remove the gauntlet from Thanos. But old Star-Lord kind of derails that, doesn't he?
Isn't it Thor's plan to just stab him in the heart?
Yeah. You know what? That don't.
Like he's like, Thanos is like, should have went to the head.
Yeah. It's a good scene. And Thanos arrives to speak to Strange and speaks to Strange, justifying his plans as necessary to ensure the survival of the universe threatened by overpopulation. This is the part where we actually find out about Titan, what happened. Again, that part of the story should have been at the beginning. You know, we really should have dove more into Phil for him. I really love, at this point, we don't give a shit.
Yeah, I like your opening. I like that proposition there.
It's a good revision, a good Hollywood.
Yeah.
Hollywood should run these by me before they print them. I agree, both of us, and they'd pay us well for it also. The group works together to subdue him and are successful. Quill demands to know where Gamora is. Nebula deduces that Thanos has killed Gamora. Enraged, Quill attacks him, allowing Thanos to break the psychic hold Mantis has placed on him. Thanos is able to break free and battle with him again. Thanos is able to overpower them all using the stones, finally confronting Stark himself. Stark is seriously wounded by Thanos, but is spared after Strange surrenders the time stone to Thanos. Stark is infuriated and puzzled as to why Strange would do so. Again, I don't understand why Thanos didn't use the reality stone to just trick all of these people at this point. He did, you know, out of nowhere.
Well, maybe for realsies was overwhelmed by this is the Avengers we're talking about.
Isn't that fucking... Yeah. And they have all these different techniques to try to like, keep his hand open. They try... Whatever they can to keep his hand open because they've got to get that gun off of his hand.
That was a hell of a team that was whooping on him.
Yeah.
Peter Parker, Iron Man, Strange,
And they thought they were going to take it off.
And they almost had it. But they got a little cookie, and Star-Lord fucked it up for everybody. And I was so pissed at him. I remember being so pissed at him back.
I think they wanted that. They wrote that in there for you to get pissed, just for you to get pissed off.
Yeah. Were you guys Guardian fans before the movie?
I didn't even
was
know.
not a Guardian fan. I didn't even know who the fuck Guardians of the Galaxy were until the kidding.
Like, okay, to me, they were a B comic. I had them. Yeah, I had them. I had a ton of them that I never read because I collected comics.
Opposite. I didn't know them back in my childhood comic book days. I didn't know Guardians of the Galaxy was a thing. Went until the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, when they brought it out as a movie, it changed my whole perception of them. I really enjoyed the movie. I think they're great. But Drax,
Yeah.
I'm a dog fan.
I mean, we've been sleeping on these comics for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
In Wakanda, Rogers reunites with Bucky Barnes before Thanos' army invades. So Bucky Barnes. Sebastian Stan is a great actor. I like Sebastian Stan. I can't stand Bucky Barnes or Sebastian Stan's portrayal of him. We're supposed to like feel for this guy and understand Steve Rogers' emotional attachment to this guy. I'm not buying it, dude. I don't like Bucky. So it's like, okay, how do I steel man the Bucky thing for you? So
Steel man.
I like
Devil's advocate. Like, so it's like a really great friend of yours, or me, your brother, is like swept up by the communist propaganda, right? You love me, I'm your brother, but I just am a little bit ignorant and got, brainwashed by Russian propaganda somehow.
okay,
hypothetically
yeah.
speaking.
I'm
You
picking up what
love
you're putting
me.
down.
But I'm for the wrong team. And they did it to me. I didn't do it to me. They did it to me.
I'm picking up what you're putting down, but I don't think that one movie that they gave us with Bucky where he's actually like enjoyable, the first Captain America movie,
There's little tiny pieces in it too.
it didn't do enough to make us enjoy and like that character as much as Captain does.
It did enough for a lot of people.
It didn't do it for me. But I did like
He's analytical. We can need more people like him.
Yeah, I did like him being in Wakanda and finding peace there. I love that they call him the White Wolf. And I thought it was fucking hilarious that they bring him the arm and he's like, where's like these guys want to give me an arm unless they want me to fuck something up. You know what I mean?
How did you feel about their Captain America's fight with Buck? That's that iconic scene in the street
In which
after
movie?
the chase. Which movie was this? Was this Civil War? The chase in the street, when they were running faster than cars were driving.
It's been so long since I've seen that movie, man. I'll have to go back. Maybe we'll do that movie too. There's a lot to talk about all of these movies on this, leadership and project management.
I went crazy over the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I watched all of them chronologically.
I've done that
At one
before,
time.
but it's been
Still a little while.
You know how much Star Trek I've watched between now and then?
That's the thing. We're in.
My favorite Star Trek movie or TV series? The Next Generation is the best Star Trek series. Yeah. But like New Trek, Strange New Worlds is amazing.
Yes, it was. I agree. And I think their portrayal of them have been wonderful all the way through since whoever it is at the bottom now, which left, I thought it was Disney, but
Like Star Trek, that universe would be great for leadership analysis and all.
sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I need nobody else is a Star Trek. I need somebody that wants
Taylor,
So many people.
Yeah. Look, and I love almost all of the captains, almost all of them. There's a couple of them I didn't care for. Look,
This is not a Star Trek episode, but I have to know which captains you don't like.
I think when you hit that microphone, we're getting bumps on there. I apologize.
It wasn't the one I didn't like. It's the one that I like the least. I didn't like Janeway that much, right?
Oh, well, you're wrong.
I don't even know that one.
You're wrong. I thought she was great.
Yeah.
All right, man. You know who I liked in that one? And I love that. Yeah, and then the sexy chick, dude.
Oh my God, you're so wrong. You're so wrong. Okay,
Now y'all have to do this one day.
first of all, Neelix is a fucking pedophile.
Oh, come on, man.
Don't
Don't mess that up in my mind. There's only think about it, two different kinds of people that I just carry around, man. That's one level.
Think about it. Neelix, in the first couple of seasons, his girlfriend is Kess. Kess is from an alien species that only lives to be like 5 or 6.
Oh, God.
So she's only like 2 years old when they hook up.
Oh, man. Fuck Neelix. Cut his throat. Good Lord. All right, it's over. I'm sorry. I didn't say that. Write that for the record.
The biggest fault that I'm going to give to Voyager is the Native American thing.
And then there's a story behind that. So they hired a guy that was supposed to be like this Native American consultant.
Okay.
He was an actual Native American that was going to consult for this TV series so that they could nail the Native American aspect of it. It turns out this guy was a fraud. He was just some amigo, just a Mexican.
Just some of it. You know what? I think I do remember something about that.
Yeah. So
But what, it was a cool series, though.
it was a good one, man. And they kick them out in the Gamma Quadrant, so they're cut off from all the rest of Starfleet. So they are actually experiencing, even though they're, explorers, and there's this vast, alliances in the Alpha Quadrant. These guys are out there on their own, and that it was good Star Trek in that sense.
Anyway, I guess we better get back.
Now back to our regular programming.
Right.
If you want to go down the Star Trek rabbit hole, I would go down the Star Trek rabbit hole. Okay, so the Avengers alongside T'Challa and the Wakandan Parachutists.
T'Challa. Love it. I'm never calling his real name ever again.
Mounted defense against Thanos' army with Shuri, T'Challa's sister, who's to extract the Mind Stone from Vision. Banner, unable to transform into the Hulk, fights in Stark's Hulkbuster armor. Thor, Rocket, and Groot arrive via the Bifrost to reinforce the Avengers. Midnight, Obsidian, and Glaive are killed, and their army is routed. Thanos arrives and swiftly defeats the remaining Avengers, despite Maximov's successful destruction of the Mind Stone and Vision along with it. Thanos uses the Time Stone to reverse the event, brings Vision back, and tears the stone from his head, killing him again. So this is another point where, we have to see somebody kill somebody for like a mercy kill. It's for the greater good, just for it to be like, not really. Also, I just had this thought. This movie is like the anti Star Trek, the motion picture, where Spock dies because, what's the whole thing? It's the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
That's right.
Whereas they kind of try to allude to that. There's several instances where they're like, we got to kill Gamora because the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. We got to kill Vision because the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. But it's always like,
It's like,
Yeah. Now, you know what? That's something that I do enjoy with the cinematic universe is they understand the different timelines. They understand how to move between dimensions and time space, right?
Yes.
I love that. You didn't have that in the comics. That's something that didn't exist when we were growing up. It was if something happened, that's what it was. There wasn't a side. Now they can do a side with it.
it's really a beautiful way to tie together every different series that was ever made.
And,
right?
I don't even think
Because there's all different versions of Spider-Man and
Yeah.
Iron Man. And
I don't think humanity understood that back then. I think that is a concept that within the last 20 to 30 years, humanity has got a grasp on. Is multiple dimensions, time space continuum, the way things work, and the reality that there are multiple realities.
yeah, string theory, right?
yeah,
Well, I mean, Einstein came up with relativity in the 20s or the 30s. 30s.
Sure.
So, I mean, at this point, when this movie came out, it hadn't been 100 years
Right.
of relativity yet.
Well, and you got to think his theory was still so basic. I mean,
We still don't understand how gravity works.
That's true. That is true. That is true. We just found out that there's no such thing as dark matter. You hear that? Yeah, they taught that for like 10 years or something. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, so dark matter's not really a thing. That was their catch-all for the shit they didn't understand.
Huh.
Yeah. That's recent, like within the last year.
Send me that article.
I'll do that. I want to say.
Have you heard about the dire wolves? They brought them back.
Yes.
Brought them back. Been extinct for 10,000 years.
Yeah.
And they used like a skull from one that was like 70,000 years old and like a tooth from another one that was like 10,000 years old. And they got enough DNA to combine with modern day wolves to recreate a dire wolf. Now they have two dire wolf puppies.
Okay, no.
They drunk them in a cauldron and just
Yeah, well, that's what I do with plants. It's called somatic embryogenesis.
I've seen them do it. I got videos of it.
Yeah.
Did you get all of those? I couldn't get them all to send at once. So I kept trying to send them in batches.
I got like 4 or 5 videos. That was it. They were little small clips.
There's more. You need to like put them on a thumb drive or something.
Yeah. I'll just think, yeah, cool. Cool. No, I love that kind of, or somatic hybridization. That's what it's called. Somatic hybridization, if you want to look that up. Or either somatic hybridization, or you can look up soliploidal hybridization, and you'll find that kind of stuff.
And this is essentially like putting multiple different genes into the one media nutrients to try to get them to come on.
Basically, yes. Like if I was going with a plant, what you would do is you would chemically strip away the cell wall. So what you're left with is called the protoplasm. Okay. It's basically like the nucleus of an atom. And you're taking two of these.
So to do that, you kind of have to put it in a blender, huh?
You know what? You can put it in a petri dish, you smash them together. It's yes, actually, yes. That's what you're doing is you're mashing them together, putting two protoplasms together, and then putting it into a nutrient-rich media so that it can actually grow organogenesis, which is whatever organ it is that you're trying to do it, whether it be stem, leaf, or leaf, node, material, what have you. But you're creating an embryo out of two different entities that were not supposed to fuse. But you have to do that by stripping away the outer cell wall and fusing the protoplasm.
And you could kind of direct it in a direction to grow a specific kind of whatever. Like,
well, it depends on what cell you're using. If you're using cell tissue that's undifferentiated,
you need the right stem cells.
Okay. Stem cells that's the beauty. That's why we use stem cells. Stem cells are undifferentiated groupings of cells. It doesn't know what it wants to be. It's undifferentiated. You can manipulate that through hormones.
I mean, aren't there like stem cells, like different stem cells would give you an ear than would give you a liver?
It's not so much the stem cell, it's what you do to the stem cell. It's what hormone combination or a growth regulator that you would put in your media to induce that.
I got you.
Right. Just like,
so like years ago, they grew an ear on a mouse.
Sure. Sure. Now, I think they grafted that is what I think that's how they did it.
I thought they like put some stem cells on it in his back and
maybe. I remember it coming out in like 97, 98. It was something like that. And the only reason I remember the years is because it came out in our high school yearbook as a scientific feat that happened that year. And I remember it being in color, which means that it was probably my senior year, because the senior year, the only one that they made in color in our yearbook, and everything else was black and white. So that's why I think it was probably 98, 99, somewhere around there.
No, it wasn't that long.
Same thing with Dolly.
Yeah, Dolly was more like 98, 99. The ear thing was recent enough that South Park did a whole episode with a mouse running around with ears.
South Park's old, man.
That's true. That's true.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I wanted to talk about, we did Thor. Yeah. Our last thing was that Thanos shows up on Earth and wrecks ship. And, you know, you have that last fake that Wanda kills Vision, but he turns the time
to last fake
back, and he kills him himself.
I felt like Doctor Strange should have played a much bigger part in that particular movie. Only because we were dealing with timelines. You know what? We're dealing with timelines, realities, and dimensions. That would have been, he would have been a perfect character to really go to battle with.
Well, that was a giant battle, huge war going on right there.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, people were everywhere.
That's true.
And Doctor Strange is on time. So they can't do anything about what's going on at that moment. However, I do have a problem with Doctor Strange and everybody else being stranded on time. Yes, at that moment, okay, Thanos has, you know, finished with those guys. He got the time stone. He goes to Earth. He strands everybody on time. Now, Doctor Strange can make these fucking portals and go fucking anywhere. Why can't he just go back to Earth? Why can't he make a portal and send everybody back to Earth right now?
Maybe he didn't think about that.
He already saw this. He already saw it.
He knew it had to be done. The war had to be done.
Okay, all right. He saw that he didn't really have That's a good explanation. Just wanted to stay back with his hombres, Iron Man and Spider-Man. What? Why don't we make you Kevin fight? I have ideas and like money.
And I like money.
So at this point, I like that you got the. I was definitely making fun of idiocracy there. Okay. So at this point in the game, we're back to Captain America's team, and he's leading this unified defense
with Wakanda, with his little fractured team of the Avengers Light. And some people say that Iron Man was Avengers Light, okay? Iron Man was the IPA of Avengers. The IPA?
Yeah, like in beer.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay. There was drink hoppy. Okay, so Steve, it's this unified defense against the Outriders. Is that right? Outriders? Adapting to Banner's Hulkbuster struggle and Thor's arrival. However, he underestimates Thanos' personal intervention. Like, they knew about, the guys that were on Earth trying to get the shit. They did not expect Thanos to just show up for himself. And when he does, he really kind of wrecks up. And the whole project, at this point, Captain America's whole project is collapsed. We've already had Iron Man's project collapse whenever, they fail. And on their haphazard plan they put together in conjunction with the Guardians, their collaboration, if you will, that fails, and that's just kind of the end of Iron Man's plan. Big failure there. Captain America's plan, once we get to Thanos showing up and turning back time and killing Vision himself, taking the Mind Stone, bang. That's the collapse of Captain America's plan. Now we have Thor. Thor shows up and aims for his
Hard shot. Yeah, hard shot, man. It should work. But
any time and resources we talked about earlier that he invested in to just go for his shit
goes away. Don't even know every bad guy. You got to chop their head off.
Back it up a little bit. When Thor shows up with Rocket and Groot, the scene where Thor's like, "Oh, copying me with the beer. I see you." And he's like, "These are my friends, Rabbit and Tree." And Groot says, "I am Groot." And fucking Chris Evans gives the most honest reading of this line where he's like, "I went in America. I went fucking love that shit." That's good stuff, man.
It really is. A lot of those little things in this movie. All of the movie.
Oh no, I didn't see Rogers. That's what he said. I didn't see Rogers. Yeah. Good stuff. Good comedy. The Russo brothers, they did Arrested Development. These things were like shit directors and got Civil War. They got some early Captain America movies. And then Kevin Feige was like, you want the Infinity War? That's how you know. And they took it and they ran with it. They did a great job.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love it.
Are nerds in every good way.
Some good scenes with Thor, but then where we have it, Thanos places Blackstone in the gauntlet and absorbs the sudden rush of power from all six stones. Temporarily distracted, Thanos is attacked by Thor, who embeds Stormbreaker in the Titan's chest. Thor gloats for a moment, but is taunted by a dying Thanos who tells him he should have aimed for his target's head. Thanos raises the gauntlet and snaps his fingers with a sudden burst of white light. Thanos finds himself on an empty landscape covered with a thin layer of water contained in the world of the Soul Stone. At a nearby temple, he meets Gamora, who appears as a child the same age as when Thanos attacked her planet. She innocently asks him if he was able to complete his life's goal. The answer is yes. She asks him what it cost, and he says everything.
Yeah, that was a very impactful moment. I think that's where he realized she was everything.
But that's where you realize, we talked about this earlier, like in the beginning of this whole thing, we talked about how that's the moment where it's really nails the point that he didn't feel, his morals are questionable.
Certain.
But he didn't feel 100% good about all this noise he just created.
Yeah.
It weighed on him. And it's very clear in that moment.
I agree. I think that's what brought him to the seclusion.
Yeah.
You see him later where he's just sitting by himself and it's solitude, just quiet. I think that's what it is. Everything was weighing on his mind. He had separated himself from everything.
And I think that after several rewatches, we get that. But the first watch of this movie, like, fuck this fucking movie, you know? I don't think that we were buying it, and it's because they hadn't given us that. We weren't buying in to Thanos' vision the way that Thanos' team bought into the vision. You know?
Oh, I agree. It never really showed the real connection that he had unless you just watched it a bunch of times. You don't really see that he actually did care. That there was, you know, they just talked about balance. He just was bringing the balance, and it's inevitable, you know, and you didn't understand.
We're coming to this. This is Avengers, and the Avengers are not doing well at all. This is bullshit. You know what I mean?
And it's just as easy, actually, to be on Thanos' side, though. Maybe not for us.
I was kind of, because we kind of understand.
But if you're just scarred, broke,
I mean, the idea is certainly for Thanos to be the protagonist and not so much the antagonist. Again, we said at the very beginning, Thanos is the hero in his eyes.
Certainly. You know, though,
They could have had the audience, the whole audience could have bought into that from the beginning.
Sure.
If they had set the movie up right.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, on that same note, I think that most of the time, the villain thinks they're right. Villain believes
100% of the
they're-
time. Of course, every time. Yeah.
Yeah.
in real life and
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. Now, have you thought about
maybe not
what world leaders Thanos closely mirrors in our time?
Well, we just had the Hitler conversation.
Well, yeah, there was one. That wasn't before us.
we didn't make
Mao Zedong. Who? Mao Zedong.
Chairman Mao?
Did you say dog?
Yeah, definitely. Well, think about it, man. I mean, with everything that he's doing, there's severe suffering, and he's got the peasant, what's it called? The peasant infantry or whatever, where he's militarizing. Yeah.
Who are you talking?
Chinese government.
But Chairman Mao died. Chairman Mao's been dead for a while. Hold on. Let's see.
That's probably yeah, do that.
Keep talking.
Are we sidetracking?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, really,
Explain this to me, because I don't know what you're talking
hang
about.
on, I made some notes in this too, because I was trying to.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Are you tying it to the...
Well, I mean, I prepared a little bit. I was trying to, see what I thought, because I really didn't think that it was.
So Mao Zedong was a Chinese politician, revolutionary, and political theorist who founded the People's Republic of China and led the country from its establishment in 1949 until his death in 1976. Mao served as the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party from 1943 until his death, and as the party's de facto leader from 1935. His theories, which he advocated as a Chinese adaptation of Marxism/Leninism, are known as Mao Zedong thought.
Yeah. He's the one that brought out the Great Leap Forward. Check that out. Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution. And those are both the titles of what he brought on, and the immense suffering and sacrifice of his own people in order to justify his universe-wide balance.
This is our real life.
Yes, that's it closely resembles, the way that no regard for human life or suffering in order to bring balance to, your little world there.
Yeah. Isn't that sort of also kind of the extremists of Al Qaeda and,
Well, look, man, I don't know. Look, I have not deep dived on many of their reasoning. What I do know is that most of them are tied to a religious belief.
yeah, it's like what is the religion? Help me out here. Muhammad Ali's Islamic.
Yeah, well, right, but they are totally, totally extreme. But think about how many people you've ever met in your real life that is willing to kill or be killed for their religion. Not too many, man. Most of the people are like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not a Christian today. Maybe I won't talk about God in this podcast because it upsets people. They're like, oh, no, we will just blow ourselves up and you. Yeah.
That's a mental disorder.
I don't know. I think it's extreme loyalty, extreme conviction over what it is that you believe, your belief system. Now, like that, I don't know what it is that they believe, man. I'm not going to get into that. But to have someone that is so devout, right, so devoted to their cause, to be willing to either take a life or lose their life, that's almost commendable. It's almost commendable. There you go.
So the Great Leap Forward was an economic and social campaign from within China from 1958 to 1962, led by the Chinese Communist Party. Party chairman Mao Zedong launched the campaign to transform the country from an agrarian society into an industrialized society through the formation of People's Commune. Millions of people died in mainland China during the Great Leap, with estimates based on demographic reconstruction ranging from 15 to 55 million, making the Great Chinese Famine the largest and second largest famine in human history.
But he was looking at the long term. And he was looking at the long term. He said, for the long-term prosperity, of our nation, this is what we need to do. That's just like Thanos, to bring the balance of what he thought needed to be done. He was totally cool with eradicating it. Now, Hitler, on the other hand, was trying to kill other people, not his people.
And I can't help but make the parallel to what we're experiencing here in America today, well, really worldwide today, with President Trump kicking off all these tariffs, prices going through the roof on everyday goods, and the stock market taking a nosedive, and Trump saying, look, trust me, this is going to be for the greater good.
Now, on that one, I kind of get it. I remember being in the 80s, and I remember, now, I was a very young child in the 80s, but I do remember it was all over TV and news about Americans losing their jobs to overseas companies because it was just cheaper to manufacture at other companies. Yeah. That was a big thing. Well, this brings that back. It really does. Like, oh, you don't want to pay the tariffs from getting stuff from China? Cool, make it here, and there are no tariffs. Oh, you're afraid to lose your job in whatever industry it is because it's been a bullshit industry that's been siphoning money anyway. Guess what? Change your industry. Do something different that actually brings economy to us. Just like, and now think about this from a capitalist standpoint. We talk about if you can't beat them, join them, right? I tell people all the time to do not be a sole proprietor in your business. Always form either a corporation or an LLC of some sort, an entity, right? Yeah. One thing that I keep in mind is that the United States was a corporation before it was a country. Okay. Which means that the laws that it wrote into play, yes, it was founded by the British Indian Trading Company. Yeah. You got to understand how our country was founded, man. You don't see this thing with history book
from politics here.
Sure.
Well, y'all were talking about,
I love you guys, man.
Yeah. I was just wondering, I was making a connection with Genghis Khan. Didn't he wipe out half the world?
Well, yeah, but that was about just domination, period. It wasn't so much for a greater good. That's why I didn't tie him in.
Well, genocide is genocide, right?
Well, I mean, Thanos, look, now, one thing I will say that's different about Thanos than the other world leaders we've talked about is Thanos was actually trying to be altruistic. He was really trying to bring the balance because he saw what happened on his own world. Now, these other world leaders are doing it for their own political power or gain.
What's Genghis Khan's motivation?
I want to say just conquering.
Fucking dominate.
I mean, just conquering, man. Taking over. I mean, they were very brutal.
That was a part of the,
he's just a
part of the culture.
Sure.
To conquer your neighbors.
That was the thing you did back
then. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Animalistic Neanderthal.
So now, of course, we got to, put the disclaimer out there that, a quick Google search only goes so far, and their AI overviews aren't necessarily 100% accurate. But it's based because the United States was not a corporation before it became a country, but the concept of a corporation as a legal entity with limited liability and the ability to hold power was used in the formation of the early American colonies, which were essentially chartered corporations of the crown.
That's right. Okay. It was all founded by the British Indian Trading Company. Okay. At that time, if you look, it used to be the East India Trading Company. That's where they would go around the Horn of Africa and haul spices.
Where we get ISDA from.
There you go. Well, they partner up with England, the British government, and they become the British India Trading Company. Well, what do? They send whole fleets of ships over here to this, unclaimed property, set them up in shop, okay, say, hey, look, we're going to take over this land. We need stores, we need homes, we need businesses, we need commerce to happen. And then you pay tribute back to the kingdom.
In return, we send taxes back to the
kingdom. Right. And that's it. Well, guess what happens over a period of time? Over a period of time, and you think about 1, 2, 3, 4 generations down the line, look, your kids, great grandkids or whatever have never met the queen or the king, or they've never been to the motherland of England, and they no longer want to send money back. Instead, they say, wait a minute, we've built all of this ourselves.
I don't think it took 4 generations.
Well, it did. But, well, think about how long 4 generations goes. It's quick.
I have ancestors that have been in the United States since like the late 1500s, like some of the first people. I have an ancestor that was at the Salem witch trials in the 1600s.
I love that.
Not like involved in it, but like they took roll call, you know, of everybody who was in attendance.
Yeah, they were there. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, certainly yeah. And by the time you get to the 1770s, when, you know, we declared independence, you certainly have people, the parents, their grandparents have never been across to the King's country.
I think there's a new generation about every 20, 25 years. I mean, you had kids. How old were you? 20? 25. Okay. How old do you think your kids are going to be when they have kids? 20, 25. But my point is, in a 50 to 75 year period, you've got almost 3 generations. I mean, not where they've lived and died, but to where they've had children. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my point is those kids or grandkids or great grandkids, they have no real ties to the motherland. And they say, well, wait a minute, we don't want to do that anymore. And a group of them sat back in a room. Now you think about this. This happened nowadays, right now. A group of men sat around in a basement or somebody's house and talked about overthrowing the government, writing up an actual contractual document saying this is what we do. In the moment that we walk out of this building, anyone who does not agree with us will be murdered because we are in an act of war. What they call that now is domestic terrorism.
I post,
That's what
I posted on all my socials every 4th of July. Treason is the reason for the season.
But they wrote into, because they had been founded by these corporations from these that they were founded by, they wrote that into all of our founding documents. Like, that's why we have the laws and the rules that we have on commerce, because they already knew how to do it, but based on the country that they came from.
Listen, the answer is yes. Thanos would have been very Trumpy in his handling of terrorists.
There you go.
Back in Wakanda, Thor, staring at Thanos with dawning horror, demands to know what the Titan did. Thanos, burned from the gauntlet to his chest and neck, remains silent and uses the battered gauntlet to escape with the Space Stone. Half of all life across the universe disintegrates, including Barnes, T'Challa, Groot, Maximoff, and Wilson, who all turn to ash on Earth. On Titan, Mantis, Drax, Quill, Strange, and Parker all turn to ash as well. Stark and Nebula remain stranded on Titan, while Banner, M'Baku, Okoye, Rhodes, Rocket, Rogers, Romanoff, and Thor are left alive on the Wakandan battle. You want to say that again?
No.
Pronunciation was questionable.
Some those names. I know. I'm so sorry.
You know, the first time I watched that movie, I didn't really understand that everyone was dead. I didn't understand where they'd all gone. It's like it made them disappear. It didn't really jive in my brain what was happening until I watched it a couple times.
Yeah, I think I got it. I just didn't like it. But again, like I said, being, you know, from that comic book generation, I'm used to people dying. Also, like at the time, Chris,
I don't like Tony Stark. I'm used to people dying.
What's Chris Pratt? Chris Pratt was like actively running around talking about how awesome Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was going to be. So like we knew they were coming back.
Sure.
Is there a 3? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's a holiday special.
Oh wow, I'm behind the times.
Blow your mind.
Yeah, no, like I think they had already filmed Guardians 3 before they released this movie. Like they had it in the canon ready to
Which
go.
one's 3? It's not the one with the...
Ego's the second one. So remember, they had the gold guy at the end of the second one. They kind of set up the gold guy.
I haven't seen it then. No, I haven't seen it. Ego was one where they had the celestial being, he had the planet and all that kind of shit.
Yeah. That's actually going to be our Father's Day episode. We're going to talk about Guardians 2.
Okay, cool.
Oh, what a great Father's Day episode. Movie.
Yeah, it's going to be good. We're going to get into, ego and Star Lord, but also, what's the blue guy name?
The blue guy. That's Watchmen.
No. His stepdad, Quill's stepdad is, Michael Rooker plays,
Yeah, it's the one that brought him in. The one with the little thing, the arrow. The one with the arrow.
yeah, that guy.
Yeah. I don't remember what his name is.
There's too many characters.
But he's badass too. I like that guy. Yondu. Yeah. Yondu loved Quill.
Wandu sounds like a Star Wars character.
Okay. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Our beloved band of misfits are looking a bit different these days. Peter Quill, still feeling from the loss of Gamora, must rally his team around him to defend the universe, along with protecting one of their own. A mission that, if not completed successfully, could quite possibly lead to the other Guardians as we know them. That's for Day.
Yeah. I'm going to have to check that out.
Let's see. With everyone around him dead and Gamora's tragic demise etched on his mind, a broken Peter Quill drowns his sorrows nowhere at the Guardians' headquarters. But life and time wait for no one, and as a devastating blow comes out of nowhere, leaving a dear friend incapacitated, the depressed Star-Lord must pull himself together to assemble his crew for one last life and death mission. This time, however, it seems the Space Defenders have bitten off more than they can chew. They say the third time's the charm, but with the dark past catching up with them, can the Guardians of the Galaxy thwart the sinister plans of an unstoppable intergalactic megalomaniac? Yeah, these are all pretty vague, so I can see how they wouldn't jog your memory. What was the gold guy?
Adam something?
Adam Warlock.
Adam Warlock. And it was, they really hyped him up. And they had an end credit scene where they sort of teased him. But then in the movie, who's in question right now, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, he really under-delivered on Adam Warlock. His character was kind of a bitch, really.
Thanos watches a peaceful sunrise on a remote tropical world, smiling to himself. Post-credit scene, Nick Fury and Maria Hill watch several cars collide and a helicopter crash into a skyscraper. Hill asks what's going on, and disintegrates. Fury's last act is to activate a small transmitter, which displays a starburst insignia on a red and blue background. So, if you can send a fucking page all the way across the galaxy, and
Get on, Mark.
I don't understand why Doctor Strange couldn't have just teleported everybody back to Earth.
There you go. Doctor Strange could have been the hero this whole time, man. He's the only other person that was dealing with portal technology.
He doesn't see what he's...
Apparently, if he does that, they don't win.
All right.
It was a great movie, though.
What a wonderful thing, though. If you could just see the future, and the future that wins is the one in which you don't do a fucking thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Man, have you ever had one of those experiences where you see the possibilities of the future?
What? No.
Oh.
What do you see the Matrix?
Man, I've had a lot of experiences in my life, man. You got to understand, I explored the world of psychedelics for 20 years on a regular basis. Yeah.
So, give me an example.
Well, okay. I was probably 22 the first time I realized that we lived in a completely simulated universe.
Oh, man. That's big.
Yeah. Well, no,
Talking about stuff that's very big, right?
It is because it's real. Okay.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but here's the thing is it's not a 0% chance that the simulation is real, but the simulation is created by a creator.
Yes. But yeah, you can call it whatever you like. Right. What we do know is that this reality.
If we're in a simulation, then the simulation was created by something or something.
Yeah. Now, so all that really means, if you just want to boil it down to a simple sentence, a simple idea is that our reality, as real as we see it to be, is not the base reality.
Okay. And I think that's why people do not like the idea that this is all a simulation.
Well, true. Look, what went through my head when I saw it, and this is the crazy part of it, because it does go.
We're all the star of our own show, right?
Sure.
And the idea that maybe I'm just an NPC in all of this.
Yeah.
Well, people can fucking wrap their they can wrap their head around it. Fine.
They can't wrap their ego around it.
Yeah, they can't wrap their ego around.
Okay, now when you're dealing with psychedelics, that is one of the main things that you're doing is breaking away the ego.
I
Like
agree.
you truly do. You want to dissolve the ego, completely to where you understand that you are nothing more than a single drop of water in an ocean.
Okay, so y'all are really touching a nerve with me because I pride myself on having very little ego, and I'm not.
You're a sexy motherfucker, man.
I'm not also not entirely against the simulation thing.
Yeah.
But the NPC thing.
Yeah, and I don't really buy the MTC thing. I think that everyone is an actress part of the story. And
What is this? You soak information like a sponge, like crazy, like nobody I've ever known. Explain this thing to me where they did a test where they shot particles through slits, and something about when you see it happening, one thing happens. But when you are not seeing it happen,
All right, I'm going to mess this up. I think you're talking about the uncertainty principle, which essentially is, and there's a lot of different takes on this. And I think actually you're like combining two different things.
Yeah, the cluster and the crossover.
And
you shoot particles through slits, right?
Yeah, through two directed slits. I know what you're talking about, but you would imagine it's like shooting through singular holes, right? You would think that all of the shots would end up directly behind it, but you don't see that. And when you close one, you actually eliminate that crossover. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. There.
Hit me with it, Mark.
Can you guys look it up real quick while I step outside? I'll be right back with you.
the double slit experiment.
There you go.
Well, then let's just take a fucking break.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. I just drink a lot of coffee.
Stir. As a cornerstone of quantum mechanics, demonstrates that particles, like electrons and photons, can exhibit both wave-like and particle-like behavior, showing interference patterns when passing through two slits, even when fired one at a time. I don't think that that's what you're talking about. I feel like what you're talking about is the uncertainty principle, or the observer effect. The uncertainty principle states that certain pairs of physical properties, like position and momentum, cannot be simultaneously known with perfect accuracy, while the observer effect describes how the act of measuring a quantum system can alter its behavior. So it's like just the very act of measuring a proton or a neutron or an electron change it.
They are not one and the same.
Look, there's been a lot of experiments done by firing particles at slits. You know,
So, I mean, what you just described in the beginning, like the option A and B, that's
No, they're not the same.
you laid out the experiment and then you described what happened in the experiment. The observer. No,
No.
listen, I'm slow. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, because the first one didn't have anything to do with actual observing. It's what happens to the particles in waveform right, as you get the crossover between the two.
So the Heisenberg uncertainty principle states that it's impossible to know both the position and momentum of a particle with perfect accuracy, while the observer effect highlights how the active measure of a quantum system alters it. The double slit experiment demonstrates both, illustrating that observing which slit a particle passes through destroys the wave-like interference pattern, and the uncertainty principle limits the precision with which we can know both position and momentum.
Yeah. Okay. So I was talking about the double slit experiment.
Yeah. You set this all up with, like, I'm so capable of absorbing all this information. And I'm sure at some point I had absorbed this and probably recited it to you with some accuracy. But at this point, my brain is like a fucking barrel. You can only fit so much shit in a barrel without figuring other shit out. You know what I mean?
Get it?
We know you're a genius, Mark. We know.
No, just a leader.
No, I assumed that everybody's seen that study.
I'm just a leader and a project manager, and I read a lot. But
All right.
I have this summary of events and a final takeaway. It's broken down into 3 acts. Act 1, you have these fragmented starts. Thanos launches his project with precision, securing 2 stones early. Tony scrambles in New York. Steve rescues Vision, and Thor begins his little solo quest. The leadership of these 4 teams varies. Thanos is proactive. Tony is reactive. Steve's kind of protective, and Thor is vengeful. Thoughts? Act 2.
Hard to disagree with.
Escalation and plans. So Thanos delegates to the Black Order while securing the reality and the Soul Stones himself. Tony and Strange form this shaky alliance on Titan. You gotta remember, these guys have never met each other before now. Which blows my mind. At this point, they should at least know who each other are.
Sure. Yeah. A lot been happening.
Steve fortifies Wakanda, and Thor forges Stormbreaker. Project management gaps start to emerge here. Tony's team lacks cohesion. Steve's team overestimates their defense. And Thor just ignores everybody and does it himself.
He's depressed.
Thoughts?
No, I think you're right on, man. I think Thanos is the boss, dude. I think he's the one that had the most supreme leadership skills of everyone. Even the Avengers, being the good guys, just didn't have it together. You know, and now,
Tons of it.
yeah, and even with the moral, dilemmas and the ethical dilemmas that he had, he conveyed his mission, right? He commanded and delegated everything that needed to be done. He owned the decisions that he made completely, stood behind them. He was very clear in what he wanted in his directives, and he commanded loyalty. He got that 100%, even doing heinous acts, which is much harder to do than doing the good thing.
But he had team buy-in. Like all Thanos' minions understood and supported the vision.
Yeah, sure.
Act 3, climax and failure. The Titan battle fails due to poor team dynamics. The Wakanda part of it fails because of Thanos' adaptability. And Thor's revenge clouds his judgments. Thanos completes his goal, and he exploits the Avengers' fragmented leadership and their lack of a unified strategy.
Yeah, I actually wrote it down as a cautionary lesson for a modern leader, and that was that empathy matters, right? The fact that he had no empathy for what he was doing caused rebellion.
I would argue that this is the first of our villains that we've done on this series that actually empathizes with the people that he's killing.
Okay, well, let's talk.
I don't know if he... Go ahead.
Well, I mean, you guys are the one disagreeing.
The first big thing for me is when he shows up on Titan and realizes that Anthony Maw is dead. Then there's this sense of, he says, I guess that means that the Maw is dead.
Yeah.
And you can, Josh Brolin is just such a good actor. And you feel it. He threw all of that purple and did all of that CGI. You hear it in the tone of Josh Brolin's voice. And it's like, oh man, I lost Anthony Maw.
This sounds,
But it wasn't enough to change. It wasn't enough to change his actions. That's where I'm getting. I feel like if he truly empathized, he would have had to have changed his actions, not just make the hard decision.
No, because to him, it's random, and the people that are left are actually going to prosper. This is for the greater good.
That's true.
That is 50% have to suffer, and it really. Is there any suffering? They just kind of turn into dust. Peter Parker doesn't feel so good, Mr. Stark.
In the end, it's his own suffering, isn't it?
I think that line was improvised. I don't think that was in the script. I could be wrong about that. I think that Tom Holland improvised all of it. Oh, feel so good, Mr. Stark.
Oh,
She's good. It was good. So
was it good? I had mixed feelings about
it. I mean, he's just a kid.
Yeah, you do kind of feel bad for him.
I wonder, like, how many takes did they do, and they used that one? Get the boy. I mean, listen.
I love it, man. I love that. That was great. That was great.
Sling blade.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my final takeaway. Thanos wins through a clear vision, ruthless execution, and adaptability. Classic project management strengths. The Avengers leaders, Tony's innovation, Steve's unity, Thor's determination, shine individually, but falter without coordination. So the big thing here is when you have, and I've seen this in the corporate world, you build this big giant corporation. You have all of these teams, but you silo. I worked for this company, and I'm going to be super vague here on purpose, but you had project management, you had sales, you had operations, and you had sales. And we were siloed. There was no coordination whatsoever. Sales was forbidden from reaching out to us to be like, hey, I have this project I'm trying to sell, and there's this one little thing that I would like your take on so that I could sell this project correctly. They were forbidden from doing that. And we were forbidden from reaching out to sales once we had been given a contract and being like, hey, can you clarify this point on the contract? Because I'm a little confused on what the goal is here. And that caused a lot of issues.
Sure.
And the company struggled because of it. There's a lot of, you could go back and analyze it and say that this company fell because of this company fell because of that. But at the end of the day, had early on in the iteration of this company, had we just kind of integrated these two teams so that we were working together and not against each other, we would be so much more successful. Thanks.
I think organizational communication cohesion is super important for leadership and project management. Now, it doesn't mean that one particular leader needs to be mixed in it, but he does need to know how to delegate that and to choose the right people in those positions to make those things happen. And I feel like if someone was in a leadership position and you had a sales leader or an operational leader come to you, right? Because you should have department heads that should, be able to speak to you. And they expressed those dilemmas, that you should have been able to, thwart that or combat that in some way. Maybe it's just a coordinator, a coordination position.
I feel like Thanos is good at all of these things. He's a great project manager. He's a great leader. He's just extremely morally problematic.
Yeah, he's a boss dog. I love that.
He's a great leader. He's a great project manager, but you don't want him leading you.
No, not man. Definitely no, but you want to watch him on screen.
It's great.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to be my boss. No, definitely not. I want to kick it with the Guardians, man. Yeah, being on track and great. Yeah. Rocket, come on, dog, man. Well, Raccoon, I guess. I feel so bad for Rocky. I really do. He doesn't fit in anyways.
Character, Rocket, I believe, is Kevin Feige's favorite character.
He's an awesome character.
I like him. He's a fun guy.
I like him. I like transparency. Okay. So now we're to the part where we rate each team's leadership in their project management.
Each team.
On a scale from 1 to 5. So we're going to
Iron Man.
First and foremost, we have Thanos. And we're rating on a scale from 1 to 5, his leadership skills, followed by his project management skills. So we have Thanos, we have Iron Man, we have Captain America, we have Thor. These are our 4 teams. So starting with Thanos, I'm going to give him a 4 for leadership.
About being the best.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
He has team buy-in. He doesn't take that Dr. Evil approach where he haunts people when they failed him. He haunts them when they try to kill him. And even when Nebula shows up and tries to kill him, and he doesn't off her, he tortures her. And that's probably the only reason I'm not giving him a 5. You know what I'm saying? I think he's a great leader. I really do think he is. But he's not perfect. Now, his project management skills, like, give the motherfucker a 5. This guy is a hell of a project manager. He's got focus. He's got good planning, adaptability. He's good at delegation, contingency plans, the emotional variables, which are often in all of these movies, weaknesses for every guy.
Sure.
So it's even in the real world, that emotional variance is a huge weakness. And Thanos navigates that very, very well. Then we have Iron Man. I'm going to give him a 4 for leadership. Because I really do think that Tony Stark is a good leader.
Thought you're going to trash him again.
I think that he fails at unifying his strategy in this, but it's because he's just kind of in that reactive feedback loop and just met these guys from the Guardians of the Galaxy and just really didn't have time to get into a proactive disposition. And I don't fault him for any of his failures with his attempts to be proactive in the movies that precede this one.
He had like too many variables, right? So is that like a real problem in project managing? When you're just overwhelmed with too many variables and overstimulated,
Yes, especially when you're in a reactive feedback loop. When you're proactive and you're scheduling time to put out fires, it's fun. Iron Man was in a position where he had a fire to put out and there was no deferring it till 4 o'clock. You know what I mean? He had to drop everything that was happening and put out this fire, and he was not equipped for what.
So, but with what he was equipped with, like in like that class,
That's why I give him about 4, because the cards that he was dealt, man, he fucking played him the best of these.
Now, I don't think so. I gave him a 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, he's unlimited resources and intellect, right? And he did not have the people in place to make those things happen.
well,
He had to be the show. He had to be the one-man band. If he had had the foresight to build the team, he would have had his team putting out those fires instead of him having to
this guy tried to put the Avengers. He did successfully put the Avengers together. Civil War happened, and I would think that you would empathize with this because at the end of the day, the Civil War happened because the government stepped in and said, "No, what you're doing is illegal."
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, but you know what, man? I knew it did it anyway. Well, look, one thing I will say is when I was in my 20s, and
That's what Captain America's doing. Captain America knows it's illegal, and he's doing it anyway.
yeah, sometimes he's got to be an outlaw.
Yeah. So Iron Man a 4 on leadership, and I gave him a 4 on project management because, yes, at the end of the day, I only fault him for being stuck in this reactive feedback loop, and I get how he got stuck there. You know,
Now, I liked him for project management. I didn't like him as a leader. Now, Captain America, on the other hand, great leader, right?
oh, you're a cheap captain.
Well, I think he was a great leader. He had the charisma and he could communicate it effectively with his own team, and he commanded their respect. Now, whether or not he put together a good plan or not, it's a whole nother thing.
No,
Maybe that goes to
you
the
understand that now you have to do a civil war because apparently, this is great.
I agree.
This is a great, like, who was better at leadership, Captain or Tony?
Yeah.
Because I'm with you. I'm kind of like he was on the higher end of the scale with both leadership and.
Look, at the end of the day, I gave Iron Man a 4 and a 4, and I also gave Captain America a 4 and a 4. And here's where I'm coming from on this. For leadership, Steve has very strong morals, and he's good at this tactical coordination and getting stakeholder buy-in. He shows up to Wakanda, and they're like, give this man anything that he needs. You know what I mean? His weakness is that he's just overly optimistic.
yeah, definitely.
For his project management, again, 4. He's protected. The only thing I'm faulting him for is that he diverted all of Wakanda's. Well, okay, T'Challa diverted all to chocolate. Diverted all of like Wakanda's cancer research. It's expensive. Yeah, all of their like cancer research team got diverted to trying to pull the Mind Stone out of Vision's head. Like, I feel like they should have leaned into Wanda much sooner when they were still in stuff and just been like, Wanda, get that thing out of the dead. She probably had a better chance than the scientists. I mean, if we know anything about Wanda at this point, knowing everything post in game, with the WandaVision, which is great television, fantastic, and then the newer Doctor Strange movie, the Multiverse of Madness with Wakanda.
I haven't seen that.
I mean, as the universe goes, the lore of the universe goes, she is one of the baddest. Yeah. So I give Captain America 4 and a 4 also. Or I give him a 2 and a 2. 2 for leadership. Because for the most part, I mean, he's just back dumb, lazy, and depressed the whole time. That's the next movie. But that's right. And this one is super orange. Yeah. But he shows up with the Guardians, puts together, he basically like coaches some of their team. Yeah. It was like, you guys come with me. I'm going to go get a weapon. Because I got vengeance. And so I'm going to give him, that's the only reason to get a 1. I gave him a 1. Is because he got Rocket and Groot. You know what? There's a lesson in management and leadership here. It's don't let your emotions get the best of you, right? Right? Because if he would just been thinking with a clear head, maybe he would think so that. Yeah. 100%, man. You're 100% right.
Yeah, I gave him a 1 out of 3 for the same reasons, man. A 1 because really he wasn't a leader, man. He took a leadership position, but he wasn't a leader. On 3,
Wolf's Rally talk.
Yeah.
So for project management, you gave him a 3. I gave him a 2 because he has this tunnel vision.
Well, yeah, I probably could have done fine with the 2 as well.
Very poor communication. He doesn't work well with the other teams. Really, he probably could have done 1.
But he accomplished his mission. That's what I mean. Well, he did what he sought out to do, which was to have it forged and then to go and make a blow. Yeah, the blow just wasn't.
He got Stormbreaker.
Yeah, that's the only reason I gave him a 3.
That's why I gave him a 2. Yeah,
but I'm still 2 with you. I'd shake on that with you, man. I'm not a hard 3 here.
All right. Okay, so Thanos, I gave him a 4 out of 5. You gave Chris, you gave him a.
I gave him a 4 and 5.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm 4, 5, and he's good. He's just morally questionable.
That's all we gave him a 4.
Just more.
All right.
Yeah. So he's fantastic leader, fantastic project manager. Yeah. Just Hitlerish.
But look, that's not necessarily a bad thing, man. What other leader in the world can command to have?
For the sake of this thought experiment, we're putting the evil part of it aside.
Right, yeah, exactly. In fact, that's the point. It's like you commanded the loyalty and respect.
Right. Jesus, don't clip that. I mean, he's accomplished. You give him that much. That was boy. I gave him a 4. I gave him a 4 and a 4. Chris, you gave him 2 and 4. 2 and 4. Yeah. No, I think he's a good project. Why are you so low on the leadership part at 2?
I never really saw him as a leader, to tell you the truth. I never really felt like he ever really commanded the group in any way other than just like being the project manager. That doesn't make you a leader. You just manage your end of it.
So you're giving Stark Industries to nepotism.
Well, no.
Well, no, I'm not going to argue with you.
Over his industry. Well, look, what did we ever see? What decision do we ever make him see or see him do? Nothing. He's got figureheads to do all that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's reactive mode the entire time.
If he's not the star of the show, there is no show. But that's why I say not really a leader. He's a secondary character.
I mean, early on he decides that he doesn't want to risk Peter getting hurt, so he tries to send Peter home. That doesn't work out for him. Then he gives Peter a little bit of like, what should we do? And they go with Peter's plan to kill Ebony Maw. And suck him out of the ship. Remember the aliens? Remember this? You see this really old movie, Aliens?
I find all those things as part of the project he was managing, though. I never really saw him as the leader of the group. Like, I never saw him make the calls and have other people delegate.
Yeah, even in the part of Titan, there's one part where Chris Pine is like, that was my contribution to the plan. But that just tells me that the Tony allowed the team to help put together the plan.
Yes. Now, as far as Stark Industries goes, I mean, it's a behemoth of a tech company that he's obviously done a great job with. I wasn't necessarily talking about in his business, but as far as with the group, I never really felt like he was a leader.
Yeah.
I never felt like he was a leader.
Your team captain. We get it.
Well, really, I'm not big on the character of Captain America.
It's the goatee in this. Seth, what was your rate for
I'm with you. I'm up there with him.
4 and 4?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 4 and 4.
Or Captain America, I rated him 4 and 4. Chris, you were
4 and 3.
4 and 3.
Yeah. Captain, again, he's up there. 4 and 4.
Hold on. So, you rated Captain and Tony the same, 4 and 3?
No. Tony was a 2 and 4.
2 and 4.
Yeah, I just felt like Tony's leadership qualities sucked, but his project management.
So to you, Captain's the leader and Tony is the project.
Totally.
Oh no.
Yes. However, in his project management in this movie, I don't feel like he really did a great job fulfilling the projects.
Right.
But yeah, but he's a good leader.
Where are you at in Captain America?
I'm up there with him. He's up there. 4 and 4. You know?
So you feel like he was a partner, really?
I mean, I'm one of those guys that's not picking a side with Captain and Tony.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, no, me either. I'm reading about the same. 4 and 4.
Yeah.
The only reason that they lost is because Thanos beat them by 1 point on the
Sometimes
the project management. And
sometimes ruthlessness wins.
Sword got one and a chicken.
But yeah, I gave Captain America, Tony Stark, and Thanos all 4s for leadership.
That's good.
And I gave the 2 4s for the project management. And the reason that Thanos won is because he was a 5 on project management. Now, Thor, I gave him a 2 and a 2.
Thor, I'm with you on that.
What did you give?
A 1 and a 3.
A 1 and a 3. Yeah.
Yeah, he's low on the scale.
Why are you at a 3, which is middle of the road on project management?
Because I feel like that's what he did. I feel like he went middle of the road. He accomplished his goal, but he accomplished his new hand, but he didn't. And he delivered the blow. It just wasn't a kill shot. I mean, he did all of the parts. It just didn't have the effect that it should have had.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Seth?
I'm with you. He's low on the scale because I'm just going to be with you.
2 and 2. Okay.
Yeah. But you forgot about Team Yondu.
Well, here, listen.
Young is not even.
No, listen.
Notice the blue guy got in his garage.
Yeah,
who are you talking about?
Yeah, the blue guy. He's a fellow. The Black Guard or whatever, right?
Guys, the real leader of the Avengers in the comics, okay? I wanted to ask you guys about this, is Doctor Strange. Rate his skills. You know, the guy that was like, well, I've seen it all. All I got to do is nothing.
Doctor Strange's skill.
In the comic books, he's the leader of the Avengers.
I don't know.
Young Jamie?
So, all right.
Doctor Strange, it's different, right? Because his role is so different. Because he saw every single possibility.
He's also stuck in reactive mode. He saw every possibility, and at this point is just kind of trying to ensure that the train moves towards.
And it was. So think about from his perspective, seeing everything is actually happening the way it's supposed to happen, and the one outcome is actually happening, right?
I'm going to give Doctor Strange a 2 for leadership. Because he just know right off the bat, pretty much tells Tony Stark, I will kill both of you if that's what it's to protect the stone. He's not interested in teaming up. He does kind of under duress, you know. And then on his project management, really he's kind of just, again, in reactive and protective mode. We got to like save this stone, protect this stone up until he sees the future. And then he's just trying to keep the train on track. I'm going to give, the thing is I'm going to give him a 2 on leadership and a 3 on project management.
What's interesting is you, in your book, talk about the myth of omniscience, right?
Yeah.
In a certain point of the movie, Doctor Strange becomes
Somewhat omniscient. Yeah.
What means somewhat?
I mean, yeah, 100% omniscient. But he also, the omniscience kind of resigns him to just being stuck in, you know, I just have to kind of roll with the punches.
Yeah, because you know what's coming and you can't really do a whole lot. At the same time, I don't feel like he did anything. Like, I would have given him a 1 and a 2. Because I don't feel like he actually had his own project to manage. He kind of let everybody else do their thing and then just interacted with it.
That's why I really didn't include him. I didn't include him in this.
Yeah, because he didn't have a team.
Yeah.
He didn't have a team. Yeah. He's like me half the time.
Interesting. I'm telling you, in the comic books, he's the lead.
Yeah. That's interesting, man. I don't think I read them back then. Avengers weren't something that I like X-Men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I have another question, mostly because of the 90s cartoons. Those are good.
Here's a quick question for you. Which one are you of all of them? Are you Strange? Are you Thor? Are you Iron Man? Are you Thanos?
Yeah, no, I said earlier that I always kind of identify with the word, the coyote of the bunch.
I think everybody's been a little Thor. Everybody's been in that position where times are hard, right?
Yeah. And I can certainly identify with Thor in this scenario, you know, where like, yeah, sometimes you're desperate, you know, and you're just kind of rolling with your emotions. I've been there.
I don't know.
I like Thor.
For you identify with Thor
In this particular movie, not so much. You know, I hate to say that after rating them 2 and 2, but he's still my favorite guy out of all of these.
No, he was pretty cool, man. I would say if I was going to identify in this movie, it would probably be with Stark. Probably be only now on my 2 and 4, not on your 4 and 4. But from what I saw, because of the fact that I'm not always put in a position. Now, this is now. We're not talking about any previous point in life. There's been other instances, but as of right now, I don't always have a full team to command, but I do have projects that I can execute all the time. Now, some of it requires some leadership, but maybe not an extensive leadership role all the time. So I, at this point in my life, would probably more connect with Iron Man or Tony Stark in this movie.
If there's one thing I know from running this podcast and writing the book and trying to publish that all on my own, that it's that you have to lean on that technology to pull all it.
Sure, certainly. Oh, yeah. Well, that's why I gave him a 4 on the project management side, because he did a really good job of executing his the project, right? Yeah. He commanded the team. He built the company. He made the technology. He had the foresight to make sure that all the suits and the shit was going on. Now, I didn't give him a 5 because I don't think anybody's really perfect. The closest one, well, I did. I gave Thanos a 5. I gave Thanos a 4 and a 5. Yeah, and I would love to say Thanos. Yeah. And now I will say that there was a time in my 30s where I was Thanos. Yeah, because I've had to make the hard decisions for what I believe to be the greater good, and they ended up being the greater good.
Great point for you.
Yeah, and they were hard, and they were for the greater good, and I don't regret the decisions, even though I still think about them on a regular basis.
Yeah. What about you, Seth?
I think I'm probably Cap. I think I'm probably like optimistic to a fault.
I can see it.
I see it too.
Yeah. And a good-looking motherfucker too. Yeah.
I can go all day. I could do this all day.
Seth, we've been through this. Tell all the people where they can find you.
Reggie.
Don't look for one. It's not there. Chris, tell all the people where they can find you online.
Oh, man, I'm on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatnot, Patreon, Discord. Concord District and Palm Street under Father Nature's Unique Botanicals or Christopher C. Day.
Can roll, man. Thank you, everybody, for taking this journey with us. I know it's been a long one. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Be sure to pick up the book, The Hard Knock School of Project Management, on leadershipknocks.com. And stay tuned. We got a lot of very cool stuff coming up in the future. Good night, everybody.
Flip the pages, take a peek. It's time to dive in every week. Hard Knock, you got brains on fleek. Book of the week.
Here we are, experiencing the trials endemic to any journey. Perhaps we failed. Perhaps our goal turned out to be harder to achieve than anticipated. No one is permanently successful, and not everyone finds success on the first attempt. We all deal with setbacks along the way. Ego not only leaves us unprepared for these circumstances, it often contributed to their occurrence in the first place. The way through, the way to rise again, requires a reorientation and increased self-awareness. We don't need pity, our own or anyone else's. We need purpose, poise, and patience. This week's book of the week hit me right in the pride muscle. It's Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. And let me just say, if you've ever made a decision on a job site, in a meeting, or in an argument because you didn't want to look weak, yeah, this book's talking to you. Holiday doesn't sugarcoat it. He lays it out plain. Ego isn't ambition. Ego is the voice that says, I already know. It's the part of you that chooses looking right over getting it right. And man, Infinity War is a masterclass in what happens when ego takes the wheel, isn't it? Take Thanos. The dude executed a fully coordinated, universe-wide resource reallocation initiative with a literal death toll of half the galaxy. He had a plan, he had a team, but his ego, that told him no one else could possibly understand. His belief that he was the only one willing to do the hard thing, that wasn't selflessness. That was ego dressed up as destiny. And how about Tony Stark? He's got a PhD in pride. His need to carry the burden alone, to be 10 steps ahead of everyone else, cost him trust, and it cost the team alignment when they needed it most. Even Cap, good old selfless Steve, made ego-driven calls. He really did. His values are noble, sure, but they blinded him. He couldn't step back and look at the bigger picture when it came to Vision or Bucky. Sometimes ego wears a star-spangled shield. And Thor, look, I've been that guy. The one who's pissed off, blaming myself for a job gone wrong, trying to prove something instead of fix something. When Thor went for the chest instead of the head, that was pure ego. He wanted Thanos to feel it. He wanted a moment. That moment cost everything. I'll be real with you. Writing the Hard Knock School of Project Management, I had to own up to how many times ego made me double down on that call instead of admitting I was wrong. How many mistakes I made because I thought asking for help would make me look weak in front of a crew. How often I prioritized being right over being effective. The book reminded me, you can't lead people if your ego is louder than your ability to listen. You can't grow if you're too busy protecting the version of yourself that has it all figured out. So if you're leading a team, managing a job site, or just trying to not snap at your kids after a long day, go read Ego is the Enemy. Because ego doesn't just ruin projects, it wrecks trust, it blocks growth. And worst of all, it convinces you that the problem is always someone else. Read this book. Do the work. And next time chaos hits, maybe your villain doesn't win.
Welcome to the knockback your seat. Mark's got the feedback, quick on his feet. Got your hard knock lessons in the mix. Brace yourself, his burns are slick.
Look, I know change can be scary. 1 minute, you're playing freeze tag out there at recess. Next thing you know, You're getting zits, your voice gets low, and every time your art teacher, Miss Scanlon, leans over your desk, you feel all squiggly inside. She was a striking woman. Not classically beautiful, but striking.
All right, folks, it's time for your favorite segment, The Knockback. This is where we take pop culture mayhem, run it through a real-world lens, and ask the big question. What can project managers actually learn from this mess? Today, we're diving into Avengers Infinity War. Let's break down 5 hard-knock leadership lessons, one question at a time. Number 1, was Thanos actually a good project manager? Brace yourself. This is going to feel weird to say, but yes. I mean, morally, no. But logistically, the man had a plan. He had a clear scope, collect 6 Infinity Stones. He had a defined outcome, snap half the universe. And he assigned tasks. He stayed on timeline. He executed. And that's more than I can say for some GCs that I've worked with. But what really made Thanos dangerous is that he was committed to a mission no matter what. That's not really leadership so much as it is obsession. From my book, The Hard Knock School of Project Management, I wrote in chapter 7, the longer you cling to a plan that isn't working, the more expensive your lesson becomes. And let's be real, Thanos never questioned the cost of his plan. He didn't adjust. He didn't listen. He just powered through. The hashtag hard knock lesson, a clear plan without reflection is a wrecking ball. Number 2, why did Tony Stark fail as a leader on Titan? So Tony's a genius, but on Titan, he didn't build consensus, he bulldozed. He assumed control, he skipped alignment, and he never really earned the team's trust. In chapter 2 of the Hard Knock School of Project Management, I wrote, people don't follow titles, they follow trust. Tony never built that with Strange, Star-Lord, or even Peter. He was trying to solve a universe-level problem like it was a solo tech demonstration. The hashtag hard knock lesson, if no one's following, you're not leading. You're just taking a walk. Number 3, did Captain America let emotion override the mission? Absolutely. Cap refused to sacrifice vision, even when it meant losing the war. He said, we don't trade lives. And that's a beautiful philosophy. It is. But it's also how you lose every project with hard choices. In chapter 8 of the book, I talked about scope drift and how failure to protect the mission can derail everything. Quote from the book is, every time you say yes to something outside the mission, you're saying no to the thing you promised to deliver. And Cap said yes to saving one friend when the universe paid the price. The hashtag hard knock lesson, kindness without boundaries isn't leadership. It's sabotage with good intentions. Number 4, what did Thor get wrong? Oh man, Thor finally gets his shot at stopping Thanos and goes for the chest. Why? Because he wanted him to feel it. This wasn't strategy. This was ego in full Viking mode. Another quote from the book. You can't let your emotional reaction lead the meeting. You're allowed to have emotions, but don't let them hijack the schedule. Thor didn't just let his emotions lead. He gave them the keys, the gauntlet, and the steering wheel. And that last swing, that wasn't for the mission. That was personal. The hashtag hard knock lesson, when emotion drives, execution crashes. Number 5, who was the most underrated leader in Infinity War? Easy answer, Rocket Raccoon. When Thor's falling apart, Rocket doesn't give a speech, he just steps up. He keeps the mission on track, he gets the tools, he leads without demanding credit. Rocket showed up. He was calm, he was focused, he was effective. The hashtag hard knock lesson, leadership isn't loud, it's consistent. So what did we learn from the Avengers this week? That the fate of the universe and your job site usually hinges on the basics. Stay mission aligned, build trust, check your ego. And for the love of Odin, go for the head. This has been your Knockback. I'm Mark Caples, and this is the Hard Knock University podcast. So what did we learn from a war across the stars? That leadership, even on a galactic scale, still comes down to the same things we deal with in the field every day. Ego, trust, clarity, control under pressure. We watched the Avengers fumble because they forgot the basics. Cap led with too much heart. Tony led without trust. Ford led with ego. And they all paid the price. Meanwhile, Thanos, the genocidal maniac, stuck to scope and delegated with precision, stayed on mission, and delivered his objective under astronomical pressure. And for now, like it or not, Thanos stands as the highest rated project manager in our villain series. Ruthless? Yes, absolutely. Ethical? Absolutely not. But from a purely tactical leadership perspective, he got the job done. Hopefully, the Avengers walked away from Infinity War with the same hard knocks we talk about in my book. Don't let your emotions hijack execution. Protect the mission at all costs. And above all, build trust before you build timelines. These are the same principles Ryan Holiday lays out in Ego is the Enemy, because when ego leads, everyone else follows. And sometimes straight into disaster. Now, will the Avengers redeem themselves? We'll find out when we eventually circle back to break down Endgame. But that'll have to wait. Because up next, we got a whole lineup of villains waiting to take their shot at the title. And trust me, some of them are about to give Thanos a serious run for his money. Until then, keep leading, keep growing, keep getting back up. Because here's the truth. You don't have to be perfect to lead well. You just have to keep showing up when it's hard. Stay clear when it's messy, and learn from the wreckage when the plan blows up in your face. Look, sometimes leadership doesn't look heroic. Sometimes it looks like grinding through another budget meeting after a bad estimate, or picking up the pieces after your crew walks off the job, or holding the line when nobody else seems to care. And in those moments, it might be time to embrace your inner Thanos. Not the ego, not the snap, not the genocide, but the focus, the follow through, the ability to lead with conviction when the universe is screaming at you. Because deep down, your inner Thanos is the version of you that knows exactly what the goal is, refuses to get derailed by chaos, makes hard calls without flinching, and builds a team, trusts the team, and still takes ownership at the end. In the Hard Knock School of Project Management, I said, real leadership isn't built in calm waters. It's forged in chaos, in setbacks, in the days where nothing goes right, and you keep building anyway. So yeah, take a little from Thanos, just not the whole planet wiping. Take his grit, not his glove. Because the most dangerous leaders in this world aren't the ones with power. They're the ones who know how to use it for something greater than themselves. Whether you're running a crew of 5 or leading a team across galaxies, the mission is the same. Lead with clarity. Learn from failure. Build like the future depends on it, because it does. I'm Mark Caples. This is the Hard Knock University podcast, and I'm rooting for you.